And we are live. What is going on, everybody? And welcome to this very, very special broadcast, 3+ hours of an NFBC large prize entry tournament draft. It is the MTM Ultimate, Mike the Mouth Masato, at the NFBC. It's a 15-team draft. And we are going to be bringing it to you live for the next 3+ hours. I'm Vlad Sedler of FTN, and joining me is the legend himself, Mr. Pocket Aces, Toby G. What's going on, Toby?
Vlad, it's great to be here. Me, a legend, man. I'm excited to join you, the true legend who's always pumping out some great content for everybody. But excited. This is my third year in a row announcing the MTM Ultimate. It's an incredible event. I always feel like the Super Bowl music should be playing in the background when we enter, that special thing, because this is the Super Bowl of fantasy drafting. So excited to be here.
Yeah, it really is. This is the 15th consecutive year of this event. This is done live in New Jersey. Mike puts together a wonderful event. Greg, the proprietor of NFBC, the founder, is always there in person, facilitating, making sure everything goes smoothly. And you've got some of the best fantasy players in the world in this event. Right now, as we speak, as we get ready for this draft, they are drawing these special iron balls to determine the draft order. And in a little bit, we're going to be greeted by the defending champ and the champ from the previous year. So they will be with us in a few minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a star-studded event. We've got, like you mentioned, Mike Mager, who's going to be joining. I know the two-time defending auction champion. And then, David Einhorn having won last year. I'm excited to talk to them and just think about like, hey, you all have done really well the last couple of years. What do you see different this year? Are you taking the same approach? Are you mixing it up a little bit? I think it'll be really interesting to kind of tap into their minds right before they start. So I'm excited. Like, I know they're drawing the iron balls right now to determine like the order. Do you have any thoughts? Like, if you're in this situation, what are you thinking in terms of Kentucky Derby standings, which is kind of the order of drafting?
Yeah, I mean, as far as like how I would want to set for myself. Yeah, I mean, I think this year, and for those of us that have been drafting for several months, you get comfortable with spots you might be usually less comfortable with as draft season continues. But there are always preferences. There are always spots. And I think a lot of people are drawn into the early picks. If you start off with legendary performance hitters like a Shohei Ohtani, Aaron Judge, you start off with that, you can work with it. You start looking at the next slots and see what is potentially available for you, build around there. And I don't know, just a lot of ways to go. I think some people prefer the middle, right? Like the gentleman who usually is in this spot here, Scott Genstad at RotoWire. He is a very comfortable middle of the draft board drafter, and that's a good way to be able to avoid specific runs on closers or catchers or whatever it may be.
Yeah, for sure. I've been in the middle. I'm doing a couple draft champions currently to, as you mentioned, kind of get used to drafting from different spots. The last few I've been right smack in the middle, and it's a 2-hour clock in between picks. And so I feel like I'm waiting all the time, because when you're on the ends, it's just like boom, boom, you get to pick quickly and move forward. But right now I'm like, it feels like days are happening in between my picks. So I think it's really interesting to see how the board kind of develops and moves as we get closer to drafts. Typically pitching moving up. I really like those first few spots when you can get that elite hitter or being able to nab one of those top 3 aces this year. So it'll be interesting to see how people in a standalone event, which is different than an overall competition, like how people are going to handle that. So I'm excited to see what our board shows right here, and who's picking where.
Yeah, and an interesting fact from last season is a very rare thing happened where the top 3 starting pitchers by ADP ended up being the top 3 pitchers, with Tariq Skubal, Paul Skeens, and Garrett Crochet. There was a time period where Wheeler was going ahead of Crochet, but obviously Wheeler probably would have been in the top 4 had he made it through the season. And that's a very rare occurrence, right? Because in previous years, there's always something that happens to one of the top starting pitchers. So I wonder if maybe people get too comfortable. Of course, we're hoping that nobody gets hurt, but it's just, yeah, injuries are part of the game, and you just never know what can happen.
Yeah, we'd be remiss, Vlad, if we didn't wish you a happy birthday as well. It is your birthday today. Dusty, thank you so much for mentioning that. Vlad is taking some time out of that special day to join us here. So if any of you are trying to make up excuses for why you can't be here watching this stream live, this guy is making sacrifices to be here, and creating some great content for everybody out there in fantasy baseball.
Yeah, we did the family lunch. That was great, and now I get to spend the next 3 hours with you talking baseball. It's going to be a blast. Like honestly, there's really no season like draft season. It's just absolutely incredible, and man, I'm excited to see what we got going on here today.
For sure. The beauty of announcing, one of the reasons why I like announcing this draft in particular is because there's no accountability whatsoever, right? We get to talk trash about all of these draft boards and all of these picks that we're going to see, and then we just vanish. And by the end of the year, everybody's forgotten about it. So I'm looking forward to that. I've already heard through the grapevine that Mike Masato's pick in round 1 is awful. That's what I've heard so far. For those of you who don't know or missed the very beginning, Mike Masato is MTM. He hosts this Ultimate. He's really done a lot to get the NFBC in New Jersey to cover the New Jersey, New York area, and hosting a fantastic weekend. And there's nothing that we enjoy more than making fun of Mike Masato. So really looking forward to doing that throughout the draft as well.
Yes, Mike, amazing host, obviously in New Jersey and in Vegas when he's out there and throws an annual party on the Friday nights. If you are going to NFBC, please make sure to sign up and meet people. It's a great opportunity for to make new friends. People that I've met people that have come to NFBC for the first time, not knowing anyone, and then you kind of know everyone after that. And some of these people have said, I don't have anyone at home in my hometown that I can just like talk baseball with. All of a sudden, you got 40 new people you could DM or text anytime to talk baseball.
Yeah, absolutely. I came to Vegas for the first time, I think, God, in 2020, I want to say. It was either 2020 or 2019. And yeah, it was just what an incredible experience to come to meet everybody. Folks are super friendly, like you mentioned, and it's really one of my favorite times of the year. If you have a chance to do a live league, on Saturday mornings, you have 8 different leagues that are all going at the same time. So I typically don't draft then, but what I really love doing is just walking around the room and seeing how different boards are developing, the different approaches folks are taking. Like that to me is a pure joy, as is auctions and stuff like that. Like being able to do those things live is a real incredible part of the weekend, in addition to seeing everybody there.
And for those tuning in, not too familiar with the NFBC, it's the National Fantasy Baseball Championship. It's been around for over 20 years now. They have live drafts and events in Las Vegas every year. Obviously, the live draft now in New Jersey today. They did a main event earlier as well. And this draft today, it's a 15-team league. It is a standalone, so it's not part of any national competition. There is no overall grand prize, but because there's a $5,000 entry fee, as you can imagine, the prizes for these are huge, and it's first, second, and third place that are paid out. And it's 5x5 roto. So just standard roto. You got your basic categories for 5x5. And I don't know, we might see some crazy different strategies. I'm sure some people will just kind of go with the balance approach. You might see some pocket aces. Never know. I mean, maybe not in this year's format, but crazier things have happened.
I feel like you got to do it. I mean, there's got to be somebody out there who loves me enough to go pocket aces to start off with, because pitching this year for me is pretty top heavy. It's really hard. Well, I shouldn't say top heavy, but I think that there's only a few guys now who can provide you with both volume in terms of Ks, in terms of innings, along with those ratios. And those guys are super valuable. And we're seeing them in that top group, right? Even in the first 2 rounds now, with everybody getting pushed up. You can get some of those better ratio guys later on, but not at the same volume that you can further up in the draft. So it'll be interesting to see in a standalone whether anybody takes kind of a more dramatic approach to pitching, or whether folks try to stay balanced throughout and give themselves a little bit of an opportunity if they see what they perceive as value dropping later in the drafts.
How do you foresee? I mean, of course, these things are impossible to predict beforehand, but with the closer pool, right? Because now we have 5 main events, maybe now 6 after yesterday, or another one happening today. And we've seen closers go even higher than they do in draft champions. Mason Miller's ADP is 21. That's middle of the second round. Edwin Diaz right after him. Guys like Daniel Palencia that were going 130s, 150s, now has an ADP around 80. In fact, ahead of Raisel Iglesias. So, I mean, can you get away with punting saves in this type of format, a standalone against a bunch of sharks? And what might you anticipate here with the draft, with the closers?
Yeah, it's a great point that you bring up, because really, like, the standalone creates that opportunity, right? If you're doing an overall and you're punting saves, you're trying to get lucky on saves, certainly you can do that. Maybe if you're a volume player and you have a lot of different opportunities and you're trying to hit it good there. But when you just have the standalone, like, it does create that opportunity. And for me this year, I've definitely prioritized those closers. I think once you get outside of the top however many closer it is, it really dries up a lot. And so I think that's going to be fascinating. And maybe it looks like we have our first 2 guests of the afternoon or evening, I guess, in New Jersey. We're both on the West Coast here, so we're enjoying some sun still. But it'll be exciting to chat with them and see what their approach is going to be.
Gentlemen, welcome. Defending champ of the MTM Ultimate, David Einhorn, and the champ from 2024, Mike Mager. Gentlemen, how you doing today?
Spectacular.
Going well. We just got our draft picks.
Yeah, where are you picking from?
I'm 6.
I got 12.
All right, how are you guys feeling about that?
I hate 12, but I also hated my pick last year, so you never know.
And I had 15 for this morning's main event, so 6 looks really good.
Okay, nice. It's always the worst when you get the same pick over and over and over again in your drafts. Yeah, for sure.
David, last year you took down the championship. Did you have any specific strategy as far as just punting, or did you have some of these gems like Geraldo Perdomo, George Springer? Like I guess, who were the catalysts to your?
I had a heck of a team. It was just a dream team. I had a few things happen. First of all, I had Soto and Josh Naylor, who stole 70 bases for me combined. That was unbelievable. I had Hunter Goodman as a late round catcher, and he was spectacular. I managed to get 170 innings out of Jacob deGrom at the top of the rotation to go with Zach Wheeler. In a free agent week, I picked up Yuri Perez and Mizorowski. I spent half my budget, and then they kind of carried me. And then I had like some middle round picks like Brandon Lau and Suarez, who just had huge years. And then it just like all worked out together. And I kind of ran away with the thing, actually. It was really one of my most fun teams ever.
And I had none of that.
You did okay for yourself last year, Mike. With your auction victory. I'm curious, David, is there anything that you're taking from last year and your experience there? Vlad and I were just talking about closers, and it sounds like you got Robert Suarez middle of the draft last year.
No.
Is there anything?
Eugenio Suarez, the third baseman.
Oh, it's Eugenio Suarez. Okay,
It was like a middle round pick. He was like 14th or 15th round. He hit 50 home runs. It was terrific.
Well, that's brilliant. Is there anything that you learned from last year that you are planning to apply this year, or every year's a clean slate?
I have a strategy this year, and it's completely different from the one from last year.
All right. Well, wishing you lots of luck, David.
Unfortunately, I can't tell you what it is. We can discuss it later if you want.
We will analyze it.
I think it'll be obvious when you look at my team, though.
We will break it down as it goes. How many minutes are you guys away from getting going?
Probably as soon as we're done here. We'll
Okay. All right. Well, quick question for Mike. Mike, you planning to dominate this today?
I'll just I'll try. It's a really tough league with a lot of really good managers, so I'm going to do my best, but no guarantees.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on. Wishing you both lots of luck. Of course, only one winner there at the top, but hey, there are second and third place prizes as well. So good luck and break a leg.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Bye, guys.
Yes, thanks.
That's David Einhorn and Mike Mager. We're about to get the draft board. I'm going to get that going now that the draft order has been loaded, and we're going to pull up that screen. You'll see less of us and more of the draft board, and we're going to have some fun guests along the way. Some people stopping by, both people that are in this league and some other analysts and players from around the way. Waiting for this board. Board should be coming any minute. Once that gets going, we will get going.
I wouldn't be surprised, Vlad, if Mike got himself the first pick. You know, those iron balls I've heard they're weighted a little bit in his favor. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it would have been fun. That would have been a cool thing to be able to capture. But yeah, so that the draw is there. I believe the names are going to be on the board here as well, like when we get the names. So we'll keep an eye out for that as well.
For sure. I'm wondering with Mike, I was going to see, like, pick 6 is an interesting one, right? Because you got plenty of hitters, those elite hitters that are sitting there. Do you go with a hitter? Do you go with a pitcher? I don't think he would have given us any insight, but
No.
What are your thoughts? You're picking 6. You probably have, maybe Scooble's off the board. Are you leaning into one of those starting pitchers, or are you looking at one of those hitters? And is there anybody that you like a lot there?
I mean, in a standalone format, I probably would not start off with a Skeens or Crochet. I think I would probably take the best hitter on the board, and especially because Scooble's off the board, there's going to be a good hitter there. So that's something that I think would be whoever is left between Soto and Acuna, and never know. Sometimes there's a surprise, maybe Witt's there, whatnot. But yeah, I think the way that I've been building recently, I think I'm comfortable with a lot of the sort of the tier 2 pitchers, and these are the guys that are going after Christopher Sanchez and Yamamoto. That I'm comfortable with one of them as my SP1, and then going from there. And of course, you got to think about closers along the way as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's gonna be super interesting. I've done very few, very few fab leagues, and it's interesting. I've done very few leagues, period, like recently. So it'll be interesting as these starting pitchers have pitched up. As Acuna, like you mentioned, earlier in the draft season, he was going middle of the second round, and now he's all the way up to the middle of the first round. Appears healthy again. So it sets up a really interesting dynamic there, I think, in the first round. And then, like you said, that first tier of starting pitchers, they're all gone by the time, if you take a hitter and at pick 6. They're going to be long gone. So it'll be interesting to see how people pivot, whether it's to those closers, those elite closers, or otherwise.
Let me ask you, Toby, with spring training and everything that's going on, obviously people are hyper-focused on everything that's happening, and it's almost human nature to respond in the drafts with things that are happening. Like, no matter how disciplined you are, if a pitcher you really liked who might crack the rotation, or talking about like guys that have had massive helium in main events, like Nick Abel, Kyle Harrison, whatnot. Like, obviously, we're looking at pitch mix changes, velocity increases, things like that. But then it really is hard not to look at dominant box scores, right? If somebody's going in there and they're just like mowing guys down with 12 strikeouts with no walks and 8 innings or whatnot. I mean, that has to have some effect on it, right? And then it becomes helium, right? Because then everybody starts chasing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we've seen that dramatically in the main events. Like you mentioned, some of those guys who were going past, pick 350, past pick 400, are now jumping into that early 200 range. That seems to be where a lot of the players that have that helium are going. For me personally, I pay attention to every single box score. Like, I go on game feed after every day, and I'll look at every single pitcher who's throwing. I'll be looking for players who, have a velo change in particular. Like if they're up a couple miles per hour. Like, I know Ryan Weathers is somebody with the Yankees where I think he's been plus 2 miles per hour. He's thrown like 99 on average. This spring training, things like that can make a material difference. Similarly, like, I know we kind of poo-poo spring training performance generally, but if a player is demonstrating a really strong ability to strike guys out and throw strikes, I think that is that's something that I'm going to pay attention to as well. I think the latest research shows that there's some things that do kind of predict maybe improvement, including that velo bump, including hitters who are hitting fewer ground balls. And we're not just talking like 2% fewer ground balls, but somebody who's hitting the ball in the air a lot more. It may signify that they've made some sort of swing change, or they're trying to elevate the ball a little bit. And similarly, walks. Like, I think when you look at guys that are really struggling with command, it could be an underlying injury. It could be something else. I'm generally factoring in those things, but like you mentioned, just a little bit, not letting it take over, the value overall. How about you? Is there anything in spring training or anyone in spring training that has kind of caught your eye so far?
Yeah, I mean, as far as like what's caught my eye is with these starting pitchers that are guys that were going in the 400s, 500s in draft champions, these 50-round draft and holds that are all of a sudden cracking the top 300. And sometimes, I mean, even somebody like Cade Cavalli, obviously a phenomenal prospect, had some health issues, and now he's looking good. He's got the opening day start. Obviously, that factors in as well in his appeal. But now the range at which he's going in the 230s, you start to question it. You're like, okay, how's the defense there with Washington? How bad is that team? How much run support are they going to give him? Is he really going to be like a low threes ratio guy? These things matter. And so you almost have to do a sanity check with each of these guys that are going up and not just follow blindly saying, oh, well, this is the new market price. I got to do it. No, you got to sit there and be like, okay, this guy I'm in on, this guy I'm not, this guy I won't chase, this guy I'll take if he falls, and things like that.
Yeah. One of my favorite things to do in auctions is to take those guys that are going up, and throw them out as my first pick or my first nomination in auctions, just because everybody's got as much money as they need. And so it's fun to see like how people go in that direction. I remember a few years back, it was Reed Detmers. Reed Detmers was slinging it in spring training. He had the velo bump. He had everything that you were looking for. And he went from, a $4 or $5 guy all the way to like a, $15, $16 guy in those drafts. So it was fun to kind of see people just descend and spend that money on something that could potentially be great, but also, as we've seen so many times, that helium bursts early on when you're facing major league hitters and major league lineups every single day. So it'll be exciting to see how this year's players do, and who are the one or two players that take that next step and become legit pitchers in baseball.
So we're getting ready to get underway. Draft may have already started. We're just waiting to get the public board. So we're going to be able to pull that board up for you. We're going to have that on the screen, and we're going to see the draft in action. So hopefully we don't miss too many of these picks. And yeah.
How many picks have been taken so far? Do you know who they are, Vlad?
No.
Can you see it?
No, so the board that was sent to us that should be like just open, it won't open. So there's some sort of thing, they probably have to unclick something. So I've messaged them, and so hopefully we'll get that board here in a minute. So we're gonna fill the air.
All right. Do you think Ohtani's going one?
I like to know who has the first pick, but I think just having that little the extra little advantage of being able to pitch, I think most likely, imagine Ohtani goes first.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I have gotten him in one draft so far. I've done like a bunch of draft champions leagues, which are the 50-team draft and holds. Having Otani as your base for hitting certainly improves things dramatically, as does Judge, especially, this year. I don't know how you're approaching it, but power is just so important to get early on. I've had a couple drafts where I haven't necessarily prioritized power, and it dries up quickly, and there's very few guys going late in drafts as well that I feel like may contribute to power. So how have you been kind of approaching that, balancing the power with maybe a little batting average and speed?
Yeah, actively with the power, because it's something that I've noticed that I've been deficient in with my teams over the last couple of years. If you remember, what was it, 2021? It was the year that I think Aaron Judge was far and away the top guy, like a $60+ end season value. Paul Goldschmidt was second, and it was a really low, like across the board power year. And since that year, for whatever reason, just as power has been tougher. Like my pitching's usually pretty strong, stolen bases average, and it seems like it's you would think that it would be the easiest thing to kind of pick up on the waiver wire over the course of the season, but that's not always the case. And a lot of times it comes with platoon splits, it comes with poor average, or you just time somebody incorrectly. So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, for sure. The platoon splits that you bring out is a very interesting one. It feels like so many teams are going to platoon splits that it makes some of these weekend and week decisions a little bit challenging, right? Where you have guys who have better skills, but maybe some question marks whether they're going to get like the 3 games in the 4-day part of the week, or only 2 over the weekend. And it creates some challenges in making those lineup decisions, which can really determine over the course of 27 weeks and 54 different lineup changes that can make a huge impact on how well your team does. So that'll be interesting. Are you kind of avoiding platoons? Is that something that you factor in, especially like later in drafts when you're deciding whether to take somebody? Or are you okay getting maybe a slightly better skill set with a platoon split versus somebody who may get everyday at bats but not as solid?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm not as actively pursuing them as I used to be, and there's this big chunk like in the 200s with all the Kerry Carpenters of the world. I mean, he's kind of maybe the poster boy for it. Like you just know what you're going to get out of him against righties, and then there's so many of those guys, right? And some of them might actually be, or so they say, or so their managers say in the spring, they're going to be getting the opportunity to hit against lefties, like Wilyer Abreu, and just a lot of guys in that range. We'll see. We'll see if it happens. Jack Caglione, obviously on the front and center stage there for Team Italy. He's really risen up the boards. He's obviously a popular one, but this time last year we were talking about him and Nick Kurtz in the same sentence, and now Nick Kurtz is a second-round pick, and Jack's been moving up. He was in the low 200s, and all of a sudden now he's 135 last I saw.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the skills, it just shows you over a small sample how things like BABIP or home run per fly ball can really have a significant impact on players' values and their performance. Because Caglianone? Is it Caglianone?
Caglione.
Caglione.
Yeah.
Caglione. He last year, I mean, he was obviously atrocious from like a production perspective, but he, under the hood, he looked pretty good, like both in terms of the batting eye, the contact was higher than anticipated. So if some of those balls start to fall, or some of the ones that is the board coming, Vlad?
Yeah, it's
coming.
I
see the shift.
Yeah.
This is exciting. And we're already going to have some filled in so we can say whose draft starts we like.
Oh, and then some. And then some.
Yeah.
Do not shoot the messengers, Toby and I. It is. Let's make this board a little bigger as we go through it. We're going to get this little custom layout. You don't even see us. You want to see the board. So here we go. Toby, break it down here off the top.
Oh man. So I think the first maybe somewhat controversial move early on is it looks like Dan Semsel went with Bobby Witt Jr. there, team 2, over Aaron Judge. On my board, they're very close. Like in my sheet, they're within $1 of each other. So I think it just depends on the approach you want to take. For me, I'm going to go Judge in that instance, just because I think outfield, I like a lot of later shortstops. I know it seems early to think about those types of things, but and the power for Judge is really key for me. We've got a couple people, both Mike Masato and Team 4, Albright, who've gone with 2 pitchers to begin with. We've got Skeens and Cade Smith for Masato. I like that start. And Scubal and Andres Munoz for Team 4. Number of teams going hitter. I don't know. Are there any that are jumping out at you? Anything out of the usual or that you're liking a lot that you see so far?
Listen, these are all kind of nice starts. Number 1 is interesting because to me, Pete Alonso is, at least in my evaluations, a little higher than where he just got off the board here. Really love the Orioles offense this year. He's number 2 in ribs for the last 4 or so seasons behind Judge. And now he's in this fantastic lineup. So you package Ohtani, Alonso, and then Brian Wu together. I think it's a pretty nice combination.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of power to start off with. Look at Team 3 already has Judge, Cal Raleigh, and Kyle Schwarber. So Judge obviously provides the batting average, but a little bit of an interesting batting average approach there, but plenty of power. I think you're looking at over 100 home runs there from your first 2 pitches, first 3 picks. So that's the start. Not worried about power there. It'll be interesting to see how they approach pitching later on.
Yeah, Mike, you've got Mike Mager there at the 6th spot, doing work as usual. Gets a nice little gift with Juan Soto there. Mike, of course, is a Yankees fan, but I think that'll suffice. Stolen base wise, where do you think you think he's capable of stealing another 25 plus, or do you think that that gets pulled down a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think the projections that I have, I'll put him around 15 steals. So not as much as that career season that he had last year, but continuing to run a little bit, and obviously with the batting average and the power that he's demonstrating, he's a strong pick right there for number 6. Interesting to see Yamamoto fall so far into the 3rd round. Typically, Sanchez are kind of the next pitchers off the board based on ADP after the top 3 of Scooble, Skeens, and Crochet. So it's interesting to see Mike Mager get him there in the 3rd round after Max Fried. So an interesting start there from Team 2, just going Bobby Witt Jr. a little bit out of the usual by skipping Aaron Judge, and then Max Fried in the early 3rd round there. Really interesting seeing the yellow brick road here.
Yeah, Pete Crew Armstrong literally jumping off the page there in my formatting there with the board, trying to make it as big as possible because I know some of you might be watching on your phones. You got us minimized. You want to see this board. You want to kind of see how these guys that are drafting $5,000 entry leagues are doing. This is again, NFBC. It's a standalone. It's the MTM Ultimate. It's the 15th annual. I'm Vlad Sedler. That's Toby G. Batflip Crazy. This is the FTN is bringing this to you. You can check it on YouTube. You can watch it on my stream as well. And so, yeah, we're going to just keep going through it, and we're pretty much going to get through this whole thing. A couple of breaks along the way, and of course, a couple of wonderful guests planned as well.
Yeah, we got Samuel Horton is now the 2nd person to go 3 hitters to start off. So not venturing into that pitching market quite yet with a Caminero, Vlad Guerrero Jr. and Trey Turner start. Trey Turner falling back a little bit with all of these pitchers moving up. You have guys that were going in the 4th and even the 5th round who have now moved up into the 3rd round now that the drafts and the amount of money that's on the line is going up here. So really interesting to see that. And our host, Mike Masato, the only team that has gone with 3 pitchers to start, going Paul Skeens, Cade Smith, and then Hunter Brown. I'm not a huge Hunter Brown fan just because I think the peripherals, the underlying skills haven't been as good, but obviously produced an incredible season last year. How are you feeling about Hunter Brown this year, Vlad, or any of these pitchers here that are moving up in the third round? Are these guys that you'd be targeting in the third, or are you still going to wait a little bit to target them?
Yeah, I mean, Hunter Brown for me, I think he's solid in my rankings of VDP over at FTN. I've had him a little below his market cost for a bit of time. I think there are just some pitchers that I think are going to have better seasons that go after him. A couple of them we've seen drafted since. So I'm lukewarm on him. You know what? He's due for some win luck. I feel like he's just been kind of hovering in like the 11, 12 win range. And of course, it's a very hard category to project, to predict. And it's a tough spot, but we'll see. We'll see how Houston lineup ends up shaking out this year. Part of the way that they get there and produce, of course, is Yordan Alvarez. He's picked there in the 4 or 5, and really the 50th pick overall. So definitely Houston's going to need Yordan Alvarez to get those 600 plate appearances, which is something he very rarely does. In fact, maybe once ever. What do you think about Yordan there? Is that somebody that you would even consider? Does the utility only impact you whatsoever? And what do you think about him at pick 50?
Yeah, I don't mind. He's somebody that I was getting early in drafts when he was going around this spot. There were some question marks about health. There always is with Yordan. I think as long as you're projecting him not for that full suite of plate appearances, it's fine. You've got the power and the batting average that people are looking at so closely. I believe he's played 2 or 3 games recently in the outfield during spring training, which bodes well for him getting that outfield eligibility. In the NFBC, it's 10 games in season at a position to get that eligibility. So if you were to get that outfield eligibility, it obviously helps out a lot. But I don't see any issues with snagging him right there. What is interesting is Zach Neto. Zach Neto has fallen into the 4th round, going after Trey Turner, going after Francisco Lindor. That's an interesting one for me too. He was going at the 2-3 turn typically earlier in drafts. Not somebody that I've drafted at all, but if he falls into the 4th round, I think that's a huge snag for defending champion Einhorn's team right there, grabbing a value play after going back to the well with Jacob deGrom.
It's a fantastic pick. I mean, this is a guy that I think maybe it's something to do with the Angels. Maybe it has something to do with just maybe like I don't think you can use the small sample excuse like want to show it to me first, because I've heard somebody say that before. I don't know where I heard it, but what do you mean show it to me first? Like, this guy has basically paced 30-30 for the last 2 seasons. Like, he's incredible. He's a really good hitter. Of course, you want guys like Mike Trout and Jorge Soler to bounce back and Joe Adell to have a nice follow-up season. Like, you really need that support for him to be able to get there, to potentially get you the 90+ runs and really kind of maximize the value. So I find round 4 to be a really good deal. Want to ask you about Joe Ryan, because he now just got pulled again from the WBC. We see him going a little higher than he would usually. So, I don't know. That's the first pick that I'm seeing where I don't think I necessarily love.
Yeah, that would be a hard no for me on Joe Ryan. Not somebody that I've drafted ever since the injury concerns with the arm. I'm just not sure that there's enough that he does. Like, when I think about some of the guys that are going after him, a Jesus Luzardo, a Framber Valdez, even a George Kirby. Honestly, he had the arm issues last year, but came back, looked really solid. The projections like him, the projections also like Joe Ryan. But again, I just think that at this point in the draft, if there's any major concerns around arm issues, I'm gonna pass. There's just not enough that differentiates him, I think, especially playing on a Twins team where, yes, you can't project wins, but you can have common sense around wins, and the idea that the Twins, both with their roster, but also with that bullpen, I mean, that bullpen seems like it's god awful. Like, they can't even find one player that seems like a reasonable bet to be the closer there. And so I'm not going there. I'm with Joe Ryan. No offense. Samuel Horton is a great drafter. He's in the Champions League this year. After a really amazing year last year, he made the final table there. So can't really criticize, but we're announcers, so we're going to say picks that we don't like.
Yeah. We are professionals, but hey, we got to keep it real. Want to give people all the good info. Bangaliers, 3 home runs. That's Yance in the building. What's up, Yance? Thanks for watching. He's moved up in the main events. He's the second catcher off the board. There was the Ben Rice phase. There was Wilson Contreras has always been hanging around there. But now you got Shea Langelier just bouncing up to the 2 spot behind Cal Raleigh about a round and a half later.
We have a question in the chat just about who won this last year. Einhorn, Team 12, took down the title last year, and the year before that it was Team 6, Mike Mager. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie. Mike Mager's draft so far is looking really nice. He got that Soto pick at 6 to lay a really strong foundation across categories. He got that elite closer in Joan Duran, who's further back in my closer rankings, but it's hard to argue with a guy that typically has excellent ratios on a team with the Phillies where he's going to get a lot of opportunities for saves. You have Yamamoto, who's dropping there, snagging him. You have Jesus Luzardo, who I just love as a guy who now throws volume, and at the end of last year looked just incredible. And now Bryce Harper, who just continues to fall in these drafts. It's fascinating to see Bryce Harper now at pick 66 is where he's going right now. So really, really interesting stuff. Is there any team that's really standing out to you so far of the ones who have taken those 5 picks?
Let me look at this for a second. Blair, sorry, I don't know. Give me a couple minutes to digest it. Yeah, sorry.
See, I have the easy job where I just get to talk and talk and talk. Vlad actually has to be doing the technology and getting the board while we do that. So let's just start off just looking at Miller, who drafted first there. You've got the base of Ohtani, Alonso, and Rice. Really solid right there. Maybe some batting average questions early on, just thinking about the combo of Alonso and Rice there. Again, just picking a little bit at that. And then you've got Wu and Helsley. Typically for me, if I'm getting that base of Ohtani, I really want to have a strong pitching staff as well. Semsel, we mentioned his draft before. Limberis has gotten Cease. So he got James Wood in addition to Judge, Raleigh, and Schwarber. And he goes with Cease there. I'm curious with that approach whether there's any consideration that he's punting batting average for Team 3. Cease is an interesting one to go to as your first pitcher just because of the volume. Cease has been really consistent and one of those guys that's going to throw a decent number of innings and who's going to get you 200 to 220 strikeouts. He's on a really strong Blue Jays team. Defensively, I know that the defense in San Diego cost him a little bit last year. Albright, I'm really liking the pitching staff. You've got Tariq Skubal, Andres Munoz, and Kyle Bradish. And then you've got the combo of some Pete Crow Armstrong and Matt Olson. So pretty solid across the board there. A speedster with a little bit of power, or with a decent amount of power, coupled with Matt Olson there. Donahue with Acuna, Sale, Lindor, Garcia, and Yuri Perez. So no closers there. So that's 2 teams so far, 3 teams, because Semsel as well doesn't have a closer. So it's going to be interesting to see how saves are approached and who these guys are identifying as the players who are going to take them to the next level. Mike Masato had started off with those first 3 starting pitchers, now coupling that with a Machado and Terang. I'm curious to see how he handles power there a little bit. Hanft. We got a De La Cruz, Edwin Diaz, Logan Webb, Shane Bangaliers. Like that pick a lot. Nolan McLean jumping up draft boards, going super quick here. It's interesting. It's always interesting to see how people approach it. Perlmutter, team number 10 there, starting off with Julio Rodriguez and Nick Kurtz, following that up with Bednar, Peralta, and Pavetta. So trying to put that pitching staff together behind those 2 strong bats. Vlad, do you have any? Let me know if you're still working on technological issues there. But any thoughts on Nick Kurtz at all? I know he's a somewhat
polarizing guy.
Yeah, controversial guy. What are your thoughts?
For the most part, I haven't been drafting him, but I do feel like I might end up having some FOMO. There's another guy that I just have a few spots below his ADP. To me, he's still a second rounder. I think the concerns I have are kind of what everyone would have with someone like that. It's just 1 year of obviously pretty dominant season, but very high strikeout rate. Potentially got a little bit fortunate against the lefties. And it's more so the opportunity cost. It's like, what the guys I'm potentially passing up for him, and just the fact that I believe there might be a little bit more downside with him. So than some of the other guys who have done it consistently year in, year out. That's really the only thing. I will mention Fleming, they're a very good player, team 11. He is got to be hitting on that news, right? Because Zach Wheeler, just something came out about him not too long ago where he just faced live batters recently, but he told reporters today during his live batting practice session he was feeling more in sync. So the more good news that we see on Wheeler, the higher we're going to see him going up the board. So it was like 130, 110, started to creep into the top 100, and here we are in a standalone NFBC here, the 5K entry, and he went with pick 73.
Yeah, really, really interesting. And Scott, I believe he won back-to-back titles somewhat recently in this event. So
the 2 previous years, I believe, maybe even 3.
Yeah. So really strong there. And just like you mentioned, picking up value too with J-Ram there in the first round. Jason Santeu, team number 13, with a really interesting approach. Some really good hitters, starting off with Gunnar Henderson, then going Christopher Sanchez, Wyatt Langford, Austin Riley, Emmett Sheehan, and Hunter Goodman. Goodman has been pushing up into the 60s, so he definitely took advantage of a drop there in this draft. Some really nice looking hitters there, a base of ratios with some volume there with Christopher Sanchez and Sheehan combo. Will be interesting to see how he approaches saves, whether he's going to approach it or take a couple shots as we move forward. It's so interesting, in 15 team leagues, how do you address all of the different things that you need to, right? With the saves, with, the starters, with the hitting, it's always a tough blend. And I oftentimes find that you'll see how teams start to do that as they get later on in the draft, right? After we get outside of round 10 into round 15, who are the players that people are targeting to identify or to fill some of those gaps that they have in their team.
Yeah, I mean, we're seeing a lot of kind of hype names going higher and higher, and of course, something like this, biggest draft of the year, and on the big stage, like it's going to have an impact in future drafts. Like people are going to be like, "Oh, Emmett Sheehan, I thought I can get him in the 7th round. Now he's going in the 5th." Like times are changing. But for a lot of these players, there becomes a point where like when is high too, when is it too high? Somebody like Sheehan, I love, like 15% swinging strike rate last year, dominant, low walk rate, had been doing it in the minors all those years, healthy, following Tommy John. But what's his inning limitation? Are they going to go 6-man? There's just so many concerns. We all need to have our sort of cutoff point, I feel like, on some of these guys where, they have to be, sharp decisions that we're making here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. I mean, I'm somebody who uses projections when I'm drafting, and part of the reason I use that is because so much of what we do in a fantasy baseball draft is driven by emotion, right? Whether it's the hype or the FOMO or all of those different things. And it's sometimes more fun when we draft that way. But for me, the projections help kind of distill things down to a dollar value where I can say, there's ways I can manipulate projections. If I think, for instance, that Sheehan, maybe the projections have him at 120 innings pitched, and I think he's going to get to 140 or to 160, I can manually change that and see what value that gives him as a player. So there are things that you can do by changing plate appearances or innings pitched to get at the true skill level. But the projections really help rein you in and really give you a sense of what the true value of a player might be, at least for your spreadsheet or for your projections and the things that you're comfortable doing.
Yeah, man, some of this starting to come together, and people are backing off the yellow a little bit. If you notice in the 6th round, all you have is Jeff Hoffman, I think closer, maybe 7 off the board. Daniel Palencia, who we alluded to earlier, this is kind of the new range for him. And listen, he's nasty. Cubs are good, going to win a lot of games, but they did sign a couple of relievers there that are capable if Palencia slips. They got Phil Maton and Hunter Harvey. Of course, you hope that Hunter Harvey stays healthy. We've seen him in a past life be somebody that we went after as a potential save spec, I believe when he was with Kansas City. But yeah, so that's really interesting. And then like Roman Anthony. Listen, I like what Team 14 is doing there. Roman Anthony, Byron Buxton, those are a couple of good targets for me this year. And I feel like people are just kind of I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the projections. Like, I mean, you work with projections, you look at them, and you're good at kind of analyzing. What are your thoughts when you see something like Roman Anthony's projections that seem very mild, and the fact that we know that most projection systems don't have enough, of the background of he doesn't have enough of a sample size to really give like a full-fledged projection. So when you see someone like that, leadoff hitter for the Red Sox with lower-ish runs than a regular leadoff man for the Red Sox would have, what do you think, and how do you adjust?
Yeah, I mean, with Anthony, I'm trying to find out where he is in my spreadsheet here, so I can just give you like a sense of what the value is. Typically, what I'll do is take a look at a player. What I do is what a meta projection. So I use Tanner Bell's spreadsheet to essentially combine 5 different projection systems. A meta projection for folks who do projections is typically going to work better than just taking one system and believing in that. So I'll put that together. So on my sheet, Roman Anthony comes out as he's going 65th. The last time I updated this ADP, he's player 122 on my sheet. So he's a guy who I'm not even considering or factoring in. And I think part of the thing that you have to do is you do want to explore like what the actual projection for him is. Take a look at the skills. Oftentimes, like what we talked about before about how, as the sample that a player provides can maybe be a little bit misleading based on, what he's providing so far. So let's just look. Actually, this is really nice. So he had 303 plate appearances last year. And he hit 292 with 8 homers and 4 steals over those 300 plate appearances. So, I mean, even if you're doubling that, right, you're not seeing a ton of power. You're seeing 16 home runs, batting average of 292, but that was a 404 BABIP, right? So we're not going to see a 404 BABIP duplicate. He had 27 barrels for his 8 home runs. So typically the average like home runs to barrels is about 52%, I think, or 58%, one of those two. So you're probably looking at slightly more power. So I'd give him closer to like 14 home runs in that instance. And so what the projection is saying is, look, we're seeing through the 404 BABIP a little bit. We're going to give him a 264 batting average. That seems to be what they feel like is the kind of true skill set based on what he's doing. He does have a relatively high K rate at 27.7%. Maybe slightly elevated for the contact skills. So again, they're projecting him for about 25%. And then the speed, there's not a ton of speed there, right? So you're talking about a guy who hasn't demonstrated elite power, who batting average was inflated a little bit last year. And obviously you can't account for the type of growth that, sometimes prospects go through, but you also can't assume that nonlinear growth is going to be nonlinear, in that particular year. So I think for me, just looking at it, there's just way too many questions, I think, about kind of the underlying skill and how good that is to draft him that early in a draft. And so he hasn't been somebody that's really gotten on my radar, although he went much later in this draft, or not much later, but pick 74, I think. So.
And also, you can't project aura. It's unprojectable. But we've got some projected aura right here. The man, Mark, what's going on, bud? Good to see you.
Hey, Vlad. Hey, Toby. Great to see you guys. Thanks for having me.
Great to see you, Mark.
One of the best NFBC players, an auction master. You should listen to him, listen to his podcast, listen to his work, and get his auction sheet if you can find a way that thing's worth a lot of money on the open market.
Well, thanks for that. Yeah. Well, as Toby's, I have a similar approach, a kind of a meta projection approach, and I give VDP a lot of credit for the success I had last year.
Thank you.
It's, I think, one of the hidden gems in projections, and I like to weight it appropriate for what I think its quality is, and I think it kind of distinguished my builds a little bit from some other people. So thank you for VDP, Vlad.
Pleasure. Here we are. We're in the middle of this draft. Have you been watching this board? What are your sort of like macro thoughts and any specific builds that stand out to you that you personally like?
Macro thoughts. Catcher seems to be falling a little bit. There's some really good catcher values down here, round 6. Hunter Goodman, Baldwin, and Perez, a late round 5, Contreras. So I think great picks by those teams who were able to get the falling catcher. Closers, I think, I mean, maybe this is where they're going in the 7th round, but it felt like, as you said earlier, Vlad, there was a little yellow break there, and the closers seem to have gone after that. Couple massive, I think, steals. I have Neto quite a bit higher than his 49th pick here, so I thought that was a great pick for someone. The rich get richer. I think Team 12, David Einhorn, is having a really good draft. I think Neto fell to him, and then Contreras. So I like how he built his team with Tucker and Churio, and then he has DeGrom. Schlittler as a 2, I'm not as thrilled with. So his pitching might be a little behind, and he has no closer. So I like his hitting. His pitching, I think, is going to need some work. I like Dom's team. Team 9 has a really good hitting base, but similarly, only one starter. He does have Devin Williams, though. And I have to be honest, Mike the Mouth, I like his team so far. I really do. He has both. He's got Skeens and Brown, and I agree with Toby. Brown is a little further down my list, but it's still a good 2. And obviously Cade Smith there. And then he's got Machado, Terang, CJ Abrams, and Bichette. So he's got average, got a bunch of bags. The power is going to need to work on, but that's a nice 4 hitters in a row after starting 3 pitchers.
That's great. That's a skill, right? Like not many people just you have a board and you just see it. You see that vision, you see the macro, like where things are falling, and it's a different world. Obviously you play a lot of these high stakes standalones. Do you employ any specific like out of the box strategies where you're punting categories, or do these are these things that you maybe look into every year, or are you more of a balanced draft, or like how do you do it?
Well, the only high stake standalone I'm doing this year is the Midnight Madness, which for me is fun coming back to the snake world after a couple of years. But generally, I'm a balanced drafter. I don't want to give anything away. I'm not going to admit defeat before I start the auction. There are 10 categories. I want to compete in 10 categories. I might give a few categories slightly less emphasis, but you can only do so much in these auctions or these drafts. I don't think you can game Roto anymore if you ever could. Players are too good. So all these exotic strategies that people are still trying to do, and I've seen a bunch in auctions, I just don't think they're going to work now. The players are too good. The end game is too tough. You can't just scoop up values late like you could have. So I'm always going to go balanced. Now, the one thing I will say is in a 5, 10, 15K league where second place is a big chunk of dough, I could see de-emphasizing a category, potentially average, potentially saves, but I want to be in at least on the other eight categories if I'm doing that.
Mark, you partner with Mike Mager here. And so I think a really good segment for this show would be tearing apart Mike Mager's draft and his selections here.
Yes.
I'm curious your thoughts on Mike's draft, just because you didn't mention him, and And I think his start was really strong. It felt like he got some dropping value there pretty clearly with Yamamoto in the third going later, and then the Harper in the 60s. I know somebody mentioned he hasn't been playing great in the WBC. It's still spring training. Projections still like him. So you don't just have to pick on Mike, but I'm curious your thoughts there.
Yeah, the fun part for me when I get to watch a live stream when he is in it is trying to guess who he's going to pick, because obviously we spend a lot of time talking about players we like, players we don't like, build strategy. So I'm always trying to not stay a step ahead, but just try to figure out where he's thinking. I could tell you he's had a very good draft so far. He's getting a lot of his guys, but he's had a lot of tough decisions. Soto, I think, was really good for him. I think he might have went in a different direction if he wasn't there. So I think that fell well. I think he had a tough call on Yamamoto versus Neto, but I think he made the right call. Yamo fell a little bit, and he probably intuited a big pitcher run after, which is what happened. He might have gotten sniped by MTM on Machado. I know third base is a tough position right now, but I think Luzardo is the perfect pick there. Luzardo should not be there. I have him higher than at least 3 or 4, if not more, of the starters that went ahead. So he must have been thrilled to pair Yamamoto and Luzardo. I think he really agonized over Harper versus William Contreras, who we call C1. I think I guessed C1 on that one, and he went Harper. So that's one I'll have to definitely ask him about. But I'm sure that was a tough call. And I think he might have also been thinking of going Salvi there in round 6 instead of Springer. Springer is the one that won him all of the glory last year. So he might have felt he wouldn't make it back. You know, if he would have known Springer would make it in the 7th, he might have gone catcher and then Springer. And then I think he got sniped there after Springer, Hoffman, Iglesias, and Fairbanks all going. I think he would have went a second closer there. I don't love the Gaussman pick, to be honest. That one, I'm not as high on Gaussman, although he might have wanted to diversify. There's a few pitchers after that I know he likes probably better, but he might not want to leave Jersey with the same guy 3 different times. And I think Suzuki's super strong there, probably the top hitter on the board when he took them. So good team. Let's see here. God, I'd have to look at my board to see if I could guess a pick here.
Oh, wow. Picking Mike Mager's pick here? Holy cow. This could be incredible. This could be incredible here.
Oh, shoot.
Other side of the brain.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm going to say Matt Chapman, but that could be a complete just. No. Okay, Yiner. All right.
Early.
I'm back to Yiner. Yeah, I think that's a good pick. He's the last of that tier, I think. So that's a good one in the 9th round. Kind of spoke to what I was saying before, that catcher's falling a little bit. So that's a good pick.
He went back to the well with George Springer. George Springer treated him well. Mike obviously had the massive season again last year, 2 years in a row. But George Springer was a 250, 255 ADP. Mike had him on a lot of his teams. I know you did as well, Mark. And he's crushing. I like things like when I see, scuffling during spring, and you see that person start to dip a little bit. Like, we know who George Springer is. I'm not worried about 10, 15 at-bats in the preseason with a guy that's 37 years old, has been doing it for years.
Yeah, I'm a little different than Toby there. I give spring training probably very small percentage of my thoughts, almost none. I'm not box score scouting. I'm not watching any of the games. So that could be a leak, though. I might miss out on some things in this last week where I'm maybe too locked in to my assessment. Sounds like Toby just takes it, for some edges there, and I think he's right in what he's looking at. I just don't have the bandwidth, so I don't even know about Springer. Yeah, I think Springer will come back to earth a little bit, but I still I have him as an OF1. The thing is, could he have rolled the dice there and maybe gone in the other round? Because I think people are fading him a little bit. So he might have had a chance to take him there. So we'll never know.
We see 3 shortstops there off the board in the 9th, and really, I mean, completely different profiles here. Obviously, Connor Griffin, 19 years old, hasn't even played. We don't know if he's going to be up from day one. And we know the Pirates traditionally very cheap. Everyone keeps referencing the Bubba Chandler thing from last year. And then you got Trevor Story, who after a few seasons of being injured, hadn't really done much since pre-COVID, all of a sudden just blows up last year. And if you actually look at his injuries, it's a lot of it's some fluky stuff. And then you got Corey Seager, who really just, unfortunately, just kind of always finds a way to get hurt over the years. Do you, Mark, have a preference between any of those three? What's the type of profile that fits you best usually?
Profile-wise, it would be Story. I like power and speed. Seager is just almost never on my draft board. Middle is just a tough spot to give up that many bags. And he doesn't stay on the field enough for me. Griffin is just a no draft for me, especially in the first 10 rounds. I don't think he'll be up for several months. And there's just way too many other shortstops I like that go after him for me to go there. And yeah, so I think that's my preference there. I just want to say one other thing, Meta, was, God, this fifth round, I can't believe McLean and Wheeler and Sheehan are all in the fifth round now. It was those guys were looking a lot more interesting till they have gotten pushed up like crazy here. I can't believe McLean's coming right after Yuri now. And we're seeing that in auctions too. Perez has been high. Interesting. Bradish and Perez have been around $19 or $20. Now McLean all of a sudden is coming up at like $18. So he's right behind him. And Sheehan's like at 16. Wheeler and Pivetta are a little cheaper. So those surprised me. Pivetta and Wheeler over Sheehan. I would go Sheehan there.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like there is like for those people that are getting into the main events now, and you see these early draft boards, you see your guys surging up the boards, and your first thought might be like, "Hey, I need to get in here before these prices keep going up." The thing is, for every reaction, there's an opposite one, and they're going to be great players that are dropped, that are fallen. We've seen it year in, year out. I remember it was a couple of seasons ago. I think it was Jordan's massive year. I saw him go like towards the end of the second when he had an ADP of around 13. This is in the live Vegas main event. So there are always guys falling. They're always going to be, the hype chasing. Bubba Chandler, I mean, he had a bad first outing where he said he had nerves and didn't sleep beforehand in the first outing in the spring. He gave up a bunch, he walked a bunch of guys, and his last two have been splendid. And now you see him cruising up there, up there with some of the other big names. And we know he's a huge prospect, a big pedigree. So, man, it's interesting. What goes up must come down.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. In an auction, we say it's a zero-sum game. And in snakes, yeah, every reaction has an opposite reaction. So I think if you can see the trends for these mains coming up and any other 15 or even 12 teamers, you could build that into your strategy and know that there's some guys you're gonna be able to get a little later than you would have expected, and then just make the tough decision if you want to push. If you have conviction on these guys, I guess you have to follow them up the board, or you're going to end up without them. So I think that's one advantage I think Toby and I maybe have, is we don't do a ton of early drafts. So I don't think we're tied to the previous values. So if they look good, at my projections and valuations, I'm okay if they were cheaper earlier. So I try to have no memory, or at least a short memory, of what's happened before, and really just focus on the moment and what the economy is as you're drafting. It's tough though. I mean, there's certain guys I got a little cheaper in the first couple OLACs, and then I'm like, oh my God, like $5 more now. Am I going to do it? But quick question for you both. Amai, so he just went second to last pick in the 9th. Toby, I'm sure the projections hate him, or at least the meta projection hates him. He looks very overpriced to me, but I did see that he was throwing high 90s the other day, so I did. Maybe
99.
Maybe I'm BSing like Gecko when he says he doesn't watch any games. But what do you guys think of Amai this year? Is he someone you would be interested in? You think it's just a wait and see, or do you have to just jump in now?
Yeah, you're spot on, Marky. He hasn't even crossed my radar in terms of drafting. I mean, where he's going in drafts too, there are so many good players, so many known quantities. And these are still just key, especially in a 15-team league. These draft picks are critical to building out the foundation of your team. So I haven't gone there. I know he's looked good. I know that his last outing was really impressive, but it's also like 37 pitches or something like that. And you never know what the quality of opponent that he's facing is during spring training. So I try not to take stock in that type of stuff, for a guy who, again, we're not going to see how he does against major league lineups until the season starts, really.
Some of these builds are rounding out. Einhorn, we said he started out with a really nice hitting foundation, double catcher in Contreras and Agustin, got double shortstop Neto Perdomo, double outfielder Tucker Churio. So to DeGrom, he added Schlittler, Sandy, and Gore. At that part of the draft, it is what it is. You got to start taking some pitchers. So I think he's doing a good job there. Strikeouts. Ratios, I'm not sure. I think it's really hard to build a team with only one top 7-round pitcher. Wow, I thought Mike was going to make me look good, but he went a different direction there in the 10th. Let's see. I still have hope. We'll see. We'll see if he but he didn't have a shortstop yet. So, yeah, Pena, what do you guys think? It's a tough one. He should, he would go way before the last at least 4 shortstops, but cracked finger? I don't know.
So it gives me William Contreras vibes from last year, like we saw how that impacted his power. And Pena doesn't have a ton of power to begin with, and so I there's just too many good shortstops going later that I'd be fine grabbing somebody else there and grabbing like the Otto Lopez, Xander Bogaerts of the world around pick 210,
Yeah, Tovar. Yeah, Tovar. I don't know if this is just a mirage in my file, but he just is like a flashing light to me. But
he pops in everywhere. You go to public projections on Fangraphs, you go to the paywall FTN, Tovar. I'm not going to lie because I manage the playing time over there, and I just looked. I had to adjust it slightly because it's just you want to also keep people. You don't want to lead people into something like there's no reason to take Tovar where projections are projecting. If you can get him closer to around his ADP, if you do really like him, some interesting pitchers in this range. You got some high profile big K guys like Mackenzie Gore, Gavin Williams, last year's walk leader. Hopefully he lowers that down below 10%, quite possibly. Shane Baz, first year in Baltimore, and then Edward Cabrera having a phenomenal spring. And then Shane McClanahan, who's obviously hasn't pitched in quite a while, back in the mix. Mark, just real quick before I ask you that question, because we have like a 3 max in this booth. Mike the Mouth is about to come on. Yes. Do you down to hang out and stay for another 10 minutes after with Mike?
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Dump me for MTM anytime, and I will definitely hang out.
All right. Sounds good. All right. We'll be right back with Mark Winokur. And here is the man of the hour, the man of the 3 hours. Mike the Mouth Masato. What's up, bud? How are you?
Man, crushing it. You see the clinic I'm putting on?
Looks like it to me.
Looks good. Looks good so far. Am I getting the Toby seal of approval as well, or what?
You had it until you picked Bubba Chandler, but how I feel about Bubba Chandler.
I know how you feel about
I'm
him.
Surprised you ignored my advice.
And I found out Dom and Rob were going to take him right after me, so I said it was either him or Adele, and I just went. I had to go with him, because he kills it this year and he's not on this team. I'm not going to be happy. But
Mike, did you plan to once you got the ball and you knew you were going to go 7? Were you locked in on a starting pitcher? Were you locked in on Paul Skeens? That's how you wanted to start, and were you already thinking about the closer? What was your plan going into this with only a few minutes?
Well, truthfully, I think Skeens might be my first share of Skeens in all the drafts I've done this year so far. When he was there, I said as a starting pitcher and this as anchor, I said why not, I just said let me just grab him, and I just took him. I just wasn't playing. I thought maybe a hitter. I thought about Jose Ramirez, minute there. I mean, obviously he's got some good value down there. I felt, but I said, I want to anchor my staff here, and Skeens is a good way to start.
By the way, over the last like 3 years, 2.5 years, the Cleveland Guardians have just provided their closers with the most save opportunities. Their primary guy is the bulk of opportunity. It was close to like 88% or something. Nobody was even close. Josh Hader was 10% behind. And I don't know if you know this, some of you brought up on the FTN baseball pod, the closer edition. We talked about how Cade Smith is going to be, he's in under team control till 2029. He's in an ARB year here in 2027. Do you think there's something where, not to, to throw piss and vinegar on your second round pick, but
of course
any concern about him potentially, them holding him back a little bit, giving the other guys ops, or are they just going to go full throttle?
Look, man, it would be, this is the year, okay? This is the 15th anniversary of this draft. Last time I won this draft, it was Einhorn handing the trophy off to me. It's karma. It's meant to happen. So Cade Smith is going to lead the American League in saves. He's going to have at least 40 saves. That's what I'm putting out there right now. That's what's going to happen, right? So that's why I wanted to get a rock solid closer right there. As you saw how the closer run happened. Afterwards, I got one of my early shares of Cade Smith. So that was it.
Mike, I know you only have a couple minutes. Can you talk a little about like the evolution of this event? It started 15 years ago. Like, where did it start? Like, how much has it evolved over the years? And what is it really, this amazing event that it's turned into? Now, it used to be streamed live on Sirius for years. Now, now we're always making sure that we capture it. Talk a little bit about the history of the MTM Ultimate.
Well, 15 years ago, I was a lot younger, for one thing. So I've aged rapidly since that time. And there's only 3 of the originals, me and 2 others of the originals left, Mark Perlmutter and Scott Fleming. But we've had some amazing players, Hall of Famers, top players in this league over the years. And it said, look, I went to Greg with this idea, basically said to him, like, I want to do something with the best of the best in the East Coast. We got to do it live. It's all. And at that time, he didn't think we could get 15 players that are going to spend, it was a super, that we're going to spend that kind of money and draft live, right together, like in whatever. This is before Platinum, Diamond, before all that. So, and he said, if you do it, so Field of Dreams, if they build it, they will come. They came. We sold it out in a week. It was also the first baseball event ever covered, draft, other inside the industry, covered on Sirius at the time too. So it was a big milestones that way. And look, it's got to have had this amazing home league feel, as you saw with the iron balls, and think with the jerseys we do, and the travel trophy, and everything like that. The crowning of the champion we do. There's all those fun things we do. So even though it's super high stakes, we try to give it that nice personal feel for all the participants every year. So like I said, it's come a long way. It's a premier draft in the NFBC. Everybody wants to get into it, just because of the feel of it and the fun we have and everything else. So it's the best. This is what fantasy baseball at this level is all about.
All right, Mike, how much more time do we have with you on the break?
Yeah, I got a couple minutes. I mean, we're going to go back in a minute, but anything else, I got a few minutes.
Toby, go ahead.
Oh, I love the Cade Smith pick, Mike. I crapped on your Bubba Chandler pick, but Cade Smith, if you look at the ratios over the last 2 years, he's the type of reliever that can give you 100 strikeouts, which is so valuable, especially with the lack of volume across the league. Is that how you've been approaching the closer position early on throughout your drafts? Is that who are some players that are maybe crossing your mind here coming up, where you're looking to fill in that second closer role?
Yeah, well, when you start the 3 pitchers in a row, you have to start pounding the hitting, which I did. Trying to get the batting average. That's why I doubled up on the, as you saw on this shortstop, because Bichette with that batting average, and he's going to be third base. So I say, you know what, I got to draft him there. Will Smith was a steal falling there. I mean, he fell, so I pounced on that one. So so I'm liking the way it's coming together. We'll see what's coming up now. A little more speed maybe coming up. I'm considering something there at that point. But as I said, it's a puzzle. Like you guys know, it's a puzzle. It's not like an auction. It's a draft. You have to take what falls to you. In a room like this, you have some surprises. You have like a Kettle Marte falling all the way to the end like that. And then the other players you want later, you're getting to jump rounds ahead of time. But you got to adjust on the fly. So, but I like the way it's coming together. That's for sure. With the staff and Bubba Chandler aside, Toby. I think it's pretty solid draft so far. I'm happy I got a decent pick in the middle because I did the main event earlier today and I did it from the 13 hole. So I said I was like, I got to get an earlier pick. So I was happy to get the 7 pick and be kind of in the middle there.
Who's your biggest competition, Mike? Whose draft are you looking at, and you're like, ooh, I kind of like what they're doing. They might finish in second place.
Well, if you're talking about looks and physique, there's no competition. That's for sure. That's
For sure.
There's nobody else, of course. But biggest competition, it's truthfully when you're in the zone, I haven't even looked at anybody else's teams and what they're doing. I'm just so fixed on the teams. You guys have been calling. I can't wait to go back and hear your analysis of this whole thing. Certain players come out, you're kind of surprised. This one went here, this one went to here, but I'm not really looking at who's doing what. But look, there's a lot of phenomenal players in this draft. Future Hall of Famer, upcoming inductee, Mager. We got Santu in this one. Dom and Rob and. There's a lot of amazing players. Scott Fleming, who won it 3 years in a row. Eric Albright. These are phenomenal players. Right? So if you take this thing down, you've earned it. No doubt about that. Right?
Mike, thank you for putting this together, for giving us the opportunity to stream it, to announce it. Dude, you are the man. And good luck on the rest of it. Don't blow it, dude. Keep
I will
crushing it.
not. 10 rounds from now, you're gonna say. Game, set, match. It's going to be done. You're going to see. All right.
Excellent.
But look, guys, I can't thank you guys enough for covering this, guys. I wanted a pro coverage team. Toby's been doing it for years. Vlad, you stepped in for the great Scott Genstad, and I really appreciate you doing it and making it a priority. So thanks a lot for that.
And Mike, real quick, you recently lost your Twitter account. You got a new one? What is that?
Yes, I was able to hijack. Apparently, I sold a car today. As a matter of fact, there's someone showing me on Twitter. That is not me. It's at Godfather1. NFBC, so the number one
Easy.
At Godfather, the number one at NFBC. So please, everybody, follow me there, and I'm going to try to work on Twitter and send some of my Jersey people to find this guy, and then take this thing down. So,
all right, thank you so much for coming on. That's Mike the Mouth Masato. Good luck in the rest.
All right,
of
boys,
the
thank
draft. All right, we're getting ready for the next third of the draft. You got 3/3, of course, going. That's how math works, I guess. And rejoining us, Mark Winokur, who is an auction legend and a NFBC stud. And he is back here rejoining us to break down this draft.
Well, I was getting some intel. I got a call from Mager at the break there. We typically check in during these live events. So got a little insight into what he's thinking and some confirmation on a few of my takes as far as the tough calls. So that was good. So team one is jumping out to me, right? So he has one starting pitcher through 10. He's got Helsley and Wu and Estevez, but Wu is his only starter. I'm assuming he's going to come out firing here, but do you think that can work? Can you just have one starter in your first 10 rounds of a snake draft?
No. Is that an appropriate answer, Mark? I mean, for me, I look at the team too, and it's not just the starting pitching is lacking, right? So there's going to be questions about wins and there's going to be questions about Ks, but also look at the batting average. I mean, yes, Shohei can be solid. Yes, Michael Harris can be solid, but then you've got Alonso, Rice, Perez, Arozarena, Robert, there's a lot of batting average downside there too. So that's 3 categories that you're essentially so far are not doing well. So it really limits your ability to be successful. And it's interesting to see that approach slightly different than team 3, who took 4 boppers at the beginning and looks like is just saying, I'm punting batting average. That's a very different approach than I think skipping starters. And there's many categories there. So yeah.
I see that in auctions sometimes, unbalanced splits. So 180-80, right? 180 hitting, 80 pitching. And then I look at the hitting and it's like 3.5 categories. It's you can just get caught up in a lot of names sometimes. You have to be really looking at balance. You have to know where you stand in these categories throughout. Because if you get out of whack on average, forget it. You're likely not coming back from that. So I that's a good take. Teammates, the other one with only 3 pitchers through 10, 2 starters though, Webb and McLean and Diaz. I don't know about that. I think from a whip perspective, this team's going to be in quite a bit of trouble. Webb is I have Webb as an SP1 on one auction. It wasn't my preference. I think I maybe recovered it for whip, but McLean is not projected to have a good whip. So you're already over a 1-2 with your two starters, and we're already in around 11. So that team's probably going to have some issues for sure, at least in one of the pitching categories.
Yeah, and as we know, those pitching ratios are incredibly scarce. Like one of the things that we as fantasy managers, specifically in the NFBC, are trying to avoid is having to chase these nasty two-start pitchers that look good in the moment, or you just need strikeouts or whatever, and you end up chasing junk. And I'm not talking about Jansen, but sometimes, and you get thrashed, and it's a horrible feeling. And the stronger your pitching is, the better. And so for a lot of people that don't play in FBC and are wondering what the heck is going on with all the yellow, yellow brick roads and whatnot early in the drafts, because pitching is important. You don't want to play in that nasty zone in the middle of the season. You want to really have an anchor with those ratios, and I think especially with whip.
Yeah. So team one said, I'm totally wrong, and went with another outfielder, Bretton Doyle. So another round without starters there for team one. So really leaning into that build. 4 outfielders in the last 5 picks. Interesting. All right, here's Mager. But well, I didn't want to guess it because we kind of talked about it. So I didn't want to be like, hey, I just talked to Mike and he's going to take this guy. But he had a tough decision there. It was between a starter or a reliever. And, he, after Uribe, he probably thought, you know what, this is my last chance to probably get a cromulent second reliever. So I like that pick. I think Santana's going to be good.
Let me ask you this, Randy Leeson. I know he's a sub at FTN. He's got this. It's kind of a loaded question because one of these guys is still not drafted, goes down the board in the 200s. But which of these 3 young pitchers, let's say for their price, do you like? With that's Jacob Mizorowski, Cam Schlittler, and Jack Leiter. I assume it's not Mark Leiter Jr.
Well, if today's OLAC means anything, I got a DM that Jack Leiter went for $10 in an OLAC today. So that's what Mizorowski's been going for. So if you give me that choice, I'll go with the Miz for sure. But no, I think I like the Miz. I just think he's really being penalized too much for the end of last year. I know he's had a high walk rate his entire career, and it's a little wish casting to think that's going to change, but he's young. He seems like a committed dude that he's really trying to get better at the craft, and he could end up being a big steal. He's the one I would go for, and Schlittler's price is now getting a lot closer to him. So it's the Miz for me.
All right. If you are just tuning in, this is the ultimate MTM Ultimate 5K entry live draft in New Jersey, and it's a 30-round 5x5. And if you want to see what the first round is, I'm just scrolling the board down a little bit. You'll have to go scroll back a little bit on YouTube or wherever you're watching to check it out. Let me drop this here. An Italian gentleman, we know as Anthony Gialdi, says it's Caglianone is the correct pronunciation, which means Google Gemini or whatever has fooled me because they say you don't pronounce it. It's like Caglianone, but he says it's nonne, which I believe from an Italian gentleman. So there we have it. Just picked in the middle of the 11th. Do you think, guys, he will play full time, or is he just going to be hitting against righties? Like, have you looked at that outfield and how things might shake out there?
I think they'll give him up every opportunity. They've got a lot of mediocrity throughout that outfield. So I don't see why they wouldn't give him a real shot to play every day. Whether or not it'll be helpful for fantasy purposes, if he does or not, because of the batting average risk. If he can't hit platoons, I think they've got to try. I mean, the rest of the outfielders like Lane Thomas, Starling Marte, Nick Lofton, Kyle Isbell, these are players that you should not have standing in front of the future of your organization in an ideal world. But, we don't always live in an ideal world.
I don't know if he's been drafted yet. No, he has not been. This is probably getting close to his range. We could talk about these players because the guys that are drafting are not watching the stream. They're sitting there live in Robbinsville, and they're drafting. So Carter Jensen keeps moving up. You go to roster resource, was looking like a 9-hitter. He keeps smoking the ball. He's hitting 7th. Where do either you guys stand on a catcher with very limited experience? Is that somebody you're willing to go ahead of ADP for your C2?
I think it depends. I haven't gotten him a lot. Typically, I've already got 2 catchers off the board by the time he comes around. And there's some younger catchers that I like a little bit more, just because of platoon issues and plate appearances and Salvi being there and some uncertainty. But on a per plate appearance basis, he projects pretty well, all things considered. But I think I might have him on one team, but not recently. And as he's moved up, it's kind of made me less interested.
Yeah, $9 in an auction. That's more your C1 potentially. Auctions have been challenging this year, trying to manage the catcher and the closer market, and how much you want to allocate to those 2 positions, I think, is going to determine who has the big auction success this year and who does not. I think those 2 positions are really going to make a big difference. If you can find the sweet spot on both catcher and closer this year in an auction particularly, I think you're going to have a really good year because you'll have the resources you need for the other positions. I can't remember Santu's first pick. I'm thinking it was a hitter, but he's gone super pitching heavy. Yeah, he had Gunner. So he's got 7.5, I think, is his build. So I think that's the most pitchers of anybody. Got a couple 6 builds there. So that's interesting. Gunner, Langford, Riley, Goodman, Dansby. That's a pretty good five hitters there, though, that he's put together. I'm going to keep dapping up MTM. I like that Abreu pick in the 11th. You're going to get some saves for sure. You could get a month and a half more. And I think in the 11th round, considering who was left on the board for closers, that's another good pick for Mike.
Yeah, I like that one too. I have Abreu in both of my CLQs, both my DC CLQ and my OC CLQ. He's a great OC pick, like where he's going, where you start to see a blending of replacement value, like being able to go after a guy who could potentially be, a top 5 closer if he has access to the saves. And like you mentioned, Mark, first of all, I can't see Hader anytime soon getting on a mound, and then to actually pitch well and pitch at the same level that he's been doing previously. Major question marks for me there too.
We've got Scott Fleming, 0 outfielders so far. He did add Dylan Cruz, his first outfielder. It'll be interesting to see how he is able to fill that out. How did you guys get uncomfortable if you don't have an outfielder, knowing you have to fill 5 this late in the draft?
Yeah, I'd be really uncomfortable with that. All right, come on, Mike, hook me up here. I could be right. Like you're never wrong. Just early.
He's got to go there. He's got to go there. You knew it. You knew it.
He would. Hey, he's a better snake player than me. I had him going 4 rounds earlier, and he got him in the 12th. So Matt Chapman finally goes to, and I did not mention that to him on the phone. So that's a legitimate. He took him. He just got him at a much better price than I was initially thinking. So good call by him. But I have Chapman, on my overall list at about a 9th round value. So I love that pick for Mike. He third base to me is the most critical position this year. How are you both attacking it? I've been going top end. I've just been saying in auctions, you know what, I'm paying up, and I'll move forward with other positions. But that's one where I'm not liking what's down below, except for a couple of guys that I think break glass if you have to.
Yeah, for me, third base is a challenge. Like when I look at my auction board, there's 3 guys that are positive values, even potentially at their current AAV, and one of them is Matt Chapman. So I really like that move. I like Chapman a lot. brings power, brings speed. He's not as much of a batting average drain as he used to be. And he's obviously playing every day and getting you plate appearances. For me, I'm a little bit like, the way I tend to approach these things is that, I'm trying to maximize the value that I can get on the board. And so if that's not available at the higher end, then I'm perfectly fine waiting. Maybe I have an incredibly weak third baseman, but I have a much stronger middle infield than the other teams. And so I compensate that way. So that's kind of how I've been approaching it, because it is really hard. It's really, really hard. Like we talked about Machado earlier. Machado is normally a guy that I like to go to. He's one of the worst values on the board for me. Like he's a 70-ish range hitter on my spreadsheet, and he's going in the fourth round. So it is really hard for me. I think Michael Garcia is a really nice one, who's going at about value. I think Austin Riley is right about at value. So if I see opportunities in a snake to get a guy where he's at value at third base and he's providing me with something categorically that's going to benefit me, then I have no problem going there. But a lot of times it's been later on, it's been a Chapman, even like an Alec Boehm, or I got an early Ernie Clement as my third baseman in an auction recently as well, where, there's a little bit of value, but it's better than me overpaying, for somebody who isn't worth what their draft slot is.
We got unfortunate news here. Maybe this might help explain the drop in price, but Zach Neto, he injured his left hand sliding into home plate. It's the same hand that he injured towards the end of last season when he had a hand strain. So we'll see what happens there. And of course, the backup plan is not all that good. You got Oswald Peraza, if you remember him, and then of course Vaughn Grissom is still in the mix. So the Angels be angeling. And by the way, I just randomly looking at spring stats. I know you guys don't. Every single one of their starters with like 8+ innings have a ERA of 7 or higher. Literally everyone from Grayson to Detmers, everybody except for the kid George Clausen. But yeah, it's not too pretty there.
Well, that's a good reminder that in draft or auction, keep your phone close by and make sure you either have a confederate on the outside who is texting you if there's an injury while you're drafting, or before you're going to take a guy, you get a minute. So put the guy in, your phone and see if something just happened. I know for Mike, he did he had an injury to Kyle Teal right in his OC the other night, his CLQ OC. He takes Teal, and like 10 minutes later, I have to send him a text. I'm like, oh my God, Mike. And then yesterday, it happened again with Gabriel Moreno, although right after he drafted him, he got hurt, but looks like Moreno's going to be okay. So that's the worst feeling. But sometimes you could avoid it if you do check your phone or check the news. Don't forget to do that. Stott, nice pick for Mike. That's definitely a good second baseman that late. Buffs up the speed there. I like that pick by him. Team one.
Honestly, Mark, I love Mike's team. I think
I
Mike's team is really solid across the board.
It is. He almost never drafts a not good team. He just has that knack. It's really amazing. He really. But the funny thing is, he's so hard on himself. You'll talk to him, he'll go, "Oh, I'm so mad. Like I didn't execute." So I usually, you have to have friends who you can vent to a little bit. And that just helps. Team one. Sorry, I'm fixating on team one, but this is just fascinating. He went Robert Suarez for a third closer, or third reliever, I should say, because I don't think he's a closer. And then Carlos Rodon, who I don't believe is starting the season. So he has one starter now through 12. So this is just a fascinating build. When you start Ohtani, Alonso, Wu, I like a lot of his hitters. I'm not going to lie, but I agree with Toby. They don't all fit together well. And what is he going to do for pitching here?
Not to mention Carlos Estevez, who is having a rough spring. He's already somebody that people were cautious of because of his sub 10% swinging strike rates, a lot of good luck, and this season, people have just been cautious, and his velocity is down considerably, not just in the first outing, but the one after that. So definitely a little bit of a concern there with him. About Mike, by the way, I just have to bring this up, and obviously I'm going to use. Haven't really plugged much yet, but Mike Mager works with me over at FTN. We're the ones broadcasting here. Mike has 2 years of writing here, and in his 2 years, who puts all of his information out there and answers in Discord questions with paragraphs of explaining things to subscribers. He's won the auction championship his 2 years writing, like the overall. So Mike is on the team. Get in there, ftnfantasy.com. You can see that promo code there at the bottom. And so, yeah, get in there. We've got everything you need. So, and Mark hangs out here and there as well.
If you go by the word, his 2 years of writing is probably like 10 years for anyone else out there writing content. He is, as an attorney and by trade, he has a lot of experience writing, and it's just funny whenever you say that, Vlad, because his texts to me or emails are like paragraphs long, and I'll have like a 5-word response. It probably drives him absolutely insane. I gotta say it, Masato. He came out here, and I really like what he's doing here. Francisco Alvarez, I really like Alvarez this year. If he can possibly just stay healthy, I think he's a 30-homer hitter. I think he could be hitting cleanup before too long behind the top of the order. He could have a bunch of RBI. I love that pick. And then Bubic. So this could be the year of the Masato. This would be the people's champion, he calls himself. So I love it.
Mark, I'm going to give you another option here. I don't know what you have going on, what plans, but I think you perfect this 3-person booth here. But we do have a heavy hitter, some may say a pull hitter, coming on with us. So do you want to hang out for a bit, or are you good? All right.
I love it. I'm happy to hang out. Absolutely.
Okay. All right. We'll be back with Mark, and coming onto the stage. Everybody knows this man. He is the host of the Pull Hitter podcast. He's an NFBC aficionado, Rob DiPietro. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, Vlad, Toby? Thanks for having me. What's going on? You guys enjoying the draft?
Oh yeah, it's fun. It's fun to just watch other people draft, and criticize them, for all their picks. That's how I like to roll.
Who knew it?
This is great. Watching you guys, hammer it out here. So you and Dom over at Team 9, you guys are doing some work over there. How you feeling about the team so far? Are things clicking? Like players that you want? Are you able to grab them?
Yeah, it's going pretty well. So actually, we've teamed up the last 2 years in this league. Dom has taken over the majority of this team. It's basically his baby. So I'm just there hanging out with him, making sure he doesn't do anything crazy like pick Carlos Estevez. That's basically what I'm there. I'm there to nudge him and for a couple of quick last minute decisions to help him out. But I like what he did. Starting off with Crochet. Jazz is a little bit of a cheat code, I think, in fantasy, just so utilization wise, the power, speed wise. I got a little nervous for him when he didn't go back to starting pitching, but then I felt like he came back pretty strong with Rogers and King. Nola looks really impressive this year, and I think he'll kind of balance out the volume for him. And I think getting Joe Adele, because after he picked Mookie, Duran, and Horn, I really love those guys. I just told him, hey, just make sure your power, get back into leading into power. And he went Adele, Caglianone, and Basala, which I thought was a very good balance with his next 3 pick. I know Jack is getting a lot of hype, and he's moving up the boards, but it seems very hard not to take him right now if you really like the profile.
Curious, before the draft, was there a particular strategy that Dom was thinking about, that you were thinking about? It's a standalone league. Obviously, you can pivot in different directions. Were you keeping it flexible, focused on value, or did you really think about, how you were going to strategically approach the draft beforehand?
I think the one cool thing is, obviously, you guys know, and your listeners probably know by now, is just you don't know when you're picking, so you have to be comfortable and fluid, not get anchored into too much of a thought process that will handcuff you. And I think historically this draft plays a little bit different than the main event with the closers, Normally you don't see the run that we had in the second round here. That normally doesn't happen in the second round in this ultimate league. So to see it happen this year, it's pretty interesting. Then there wasn't so much of a rush to get the next wave, but I think everyone wanted to lock in one. I think 3 teams didn't have a closer through round 6 or 7. And I guess in this kind of league, you'll find builds like that, which is important to pay attention to see who is, if you're picking next to that person who's kind of punting a specific category. But I think the biggest thing for this league is, again, like not getting too hamstrung into this is the way I like to build. You don't have to really, standalone league, you don't have to attack saves. And I think your strategy just falls down after that. Whatever you pick your values, a lot of guys go pitching heavy. It's a big pot. So I think you see teams either anchored in one way or the other for batters or hitters to start their draft.
Rob, I know that you obviously all these mains have been hitting the boards. We all have access to the public data, and as happens every year, these pitchers that were going in the 400s, 500s, and on in DCs are now just shooting up the boards. Like, how do you determine between all these guys? Not even talking about like a Mike Burrows, but more guys like Kyle Harrison, Nick Abel. These guys are going now in the top 250. Like, what for you differentiates whether you're going to be in on them on these rising prices or if you're going to be fading?
Oh man, and it's tough drafting. In my last couple of DCs, seeing guys that I did grab so late go so early now, and in this draft too, you like even the grouping from like 150 to 160, the Baz, the Eduardo Cabrera. They just shot up like 20, 25 picks in this draft. And of course, there's that next wave, the Burrows and, the Garrett Coles of the world. For those, it's funny, but spring training, we prepare all season long, and spring training, you just see like someone throw 80 pitches and you have this, can I change my mind? Am I allowed to change my mind on a player? And it gets so hard to decipher the spring training data, but I think leading into like something like ball percentage is pretty important. I just try to keep tabs of that. Last couple of years, some guys who had some variance in the ball percentage were either hurt that following year, just command wise. I think everyone thinks about velocity, but if you're not locating, I think it's a good indicator. But guys like Weathers too, right? He's bumping up the board. He's throwing hard. He's on the Yankees. They do amazing things with the pitchers they grab there. Honestly, the way I do it is I don't look at ADP. Like if I was in any of these drafts right now, you just can't play chicken with those pitchers you like. So if you prioritize a Burrows or a Garrett Cole, anyone in that group, and you're looking at a 220 number, I don't think you can get fixed to that. You're just going to get burned. You're going to walk away with guys you don't want. Just throw ADP out. I know Phil loves ADP, but I don't.
By the way, we'll give you one comment, Uncle Ted. No, he is not at Chuck E. Cheese. He is at the draft, and that's what you hear noise or people drafting.
Yeah, I'm in a lobby of a hotel room, lobby. So there's nowhere like really too quiet to go in here. I can try though if you want me to.
No. I'm just okay. We got to give Uncle Ted one shout out. You know how it is.
But a couple of other notes I had is just like, while relievers get pushed up in round 2 and 3 and pitchers get pushed up in 4 and 5, people start with bats and people are chasing a staff. You have all these hitter values that are falling, and it's just wild to see Devers at 83 and C.J. Abrams at 84, Harper in the middle of the 5th, Bellinger pick 111. I know that's where he's kind of been going in mains, which I think is pretty wild to me considering he's back with the Yankees and he's batting average, homers, and steals. But there's so many hitter values falling, which I think can shift your focus to not being afraid to take pitchers early, and maybe that pocket ace strategy, or if you're worried in the back end of the draft around, pick 13 through 15, there's so many of those good, juicy 30-30 bats, toolsy bats. But then, you can start a batter, and then all of a sudden in the late 3rd round, you have PCA, James Wood, Pico Armstrong that are falling in drafts. And then you have to make another decision, like, am I going to lean? Do I pass this up? So I think my thought process as I've been watching these drafts unfold is like, I'm not going to be afraid to take an Edwin Diaz or Mason Miller early, or bump up, Christopher Sanchez, to not bump up, take him where he's now going, just knowing that the hitter values are just, I mean, immense. Like I love Alonso, but Matt Olson and Bryce Harper and Devers going so late that pretty comparable to them. You know, maybe not him and Kurtz, but they're pretty good corner bats for power that are just falling in drafts.
Hey, Rob, where are you at with some of the players that haven't played yet in the majors who are coming from overseas? So like Murakami on the White Sox, Tatsuya Mai, who we talked about earlier on the Astros, the pitcher, and Okamoto over on the Blue Jays. You've been drafting any of those guys? Do you have any strong intuition on them?
Well, my first lesson with the international players was a video I watched from Mark Cerebro, Gecko himself. And he always warned that the players can't even read the street signs or read any books. So the adjustment period is pretty slow. But I tend to more go with the bats than the pitchers. I think just with the size of the ball and the data that you'll find like overseas translating to the majors. I've always been unsure of how to evaluate it. I probably got burned a couple times in the past with some great Yamamoto seasons, the Senga season as his rookie year, but so I don't have any Amai, but I do have some Murakami and Okamoto. I think Murakami got a pretty too much of a bad rap for the negative contact rates because I mean even the projections like him for like 30 home runs, and I just getting that power, first base, third base, most likely. And Okamoto looks like he could really hit. You know, like he was like a professional hitter. So I like seeing. I know I can watch games from overseas, but seeing them, you know, pitch bat against major leagues, you know, skill levels, kind of a little better taste to get your evaluation a little closer than what they are, you know.
We were talking about Amai earlier, and one of the things is he's looked really good this spring. I looked at Baseball Reference. They have they keep track of spring training, and they include a quality of opposition. So like, what is the quality of opposition? And Amai's was 7.2, which means that he's been facing on average double A level of quality hitters, right? So I think that's one of those things that you need to factor in when you think about spring training is, you know, not to pick on Bubba Chandler again for Mike Masato, but yesterday he had his 10 swinging strikes in 5 innings or whatever it was, 10 Ks. And then you look at the lineup and there was literally one major league player in that lineup. I guess Jorge Mateo is also a major league player theoretically, but you know, Grant Holmes in the same game had 18 swinging strikes, you know? So those are just the things I think that we need to contextualize within spring training. But like you mentioned, Rob, it does feel like there are tangible things when it comes to lack of command, ball percentage. Even K- walk has been a pretty good indicator of breakouts heading into baseball. So we need to figure out what makes sense to factor in and what to avoid impacting our decision making.
And I think for like Grant Holmes is, I'm not like a pitch shape expert at all, but I think for me is just being able to find they have relatively the same movements, you know, and that can kind of, for me, that's just another way of validating, even if it is lower quality, but it almost seems like, Toby, every time I check the up qual, it's like everybody's at 7, you know, like there should be like a distribution, like what is really the average that everyone's facing. And then maybe there should be like an above and below the average that everyone else is facing. But I get your point. It is minor league hitters. For me, I'm just like making sure like the data, I guess, and how their ball is moving, you know, trying to, I don't know. Again, I'm no expert at that, but if it's so much different, like that's why I feel like interested in Paul Sewald again, right? When he got signed, I wasn't having anything of it. He comes out and his sweeper has the same horizontal break that it did in 2021 when he struck out 100 guys, you know? He said he went to Driveline, and I love the quote he had about Driveline. He goes, they don't know everything about everything, but they can help people, you know? Mm-hmm. And he embraced it. And I think it's interesting, like when a guy comes back with some movement profiles and velocity too at the same time, which I think for Sewald looks really good for him now. I'm interested to see where he goes in this draft.
Let me ask you this about injured guys. Is there somebody that's just standing out to you, like guys that are typically find a way to get on the IL every single year between like a Royce Lewis or Mike Trout, Corey Seager. Is there anyone on the board that has this extensive injury history that you are in, that you're willing to share with watchers and listeners?
I've been embracing risk more than ever.
Yeah.
In my draft strategy this year, and I just partly of a shift in thinking where for a while I was like, let me just out volume everybody, right? And then I think as I've been playing the last 2 years with some like mediocre results in the main events, I've looked at my teams and just like, I'm not embracing the right kind of risk. Stop being scared of Byron Buxton. Stop being scared of Corey Seager. On a per plate appearance level, they're just absolute studs. Seager's price is great. I love Corey Seager. The thing is, you have to obviously kind of plan for him. Maybe if you get Michael Garcia, it's a nice pairing, or maybe you don't get Michael, but then you get like a Caleb Durbin that can supplement some steals. Blake Snell is another one for me that I will follow the drop down in price for him. If I get 20 starts from Blake Snell, it's going to be pretty magical, I think. I think he always tends to, perform when he's pitching. And I think that's the balance that we have to try to tune into. I know everyone wants volume, but overall, the landscape of the league, pitchers are pitching less, right? So maybe just capitalize more on the per inning pitch goodness that someone has. But I've been leading into it more, like Royce Lewis too. Pick 200, yes, all day, all day. It's I don't know. It's just he's priced to buy. That's the way I feel.
Yeah, dude, I'm with you. I'm not looking to finish fifth in the league, right? So I don't mind. I'll be last, but I'm shooting for first, so I know how you feel. Dude, man, thank you so much for coming on. Tell us what you're up to, because we got a few days here before Vegas. Obviously, you're one of the rare producers of content, and obviously do well in NFBC high stakes. What are you working on the next few days? Where can people find you?
Oh, yeah. So obviously the Pull Hitter podcast, you can find the public one with the Launch Angle 2 with Rob Silver. And then on the Patreon, just search Pull Hitter in the search bar. And, I do pretty much like a hot corner daily, just trying to parse out the actionable stuff, just stuff that we were just talking about right now, just trying to find any actionable data. And I think the important thing is to not overreact, but also not underreact, but just react, find the data you like and you lead into, and then just be convicted, have some conviction with your players. And so I do that. I do tons of stuff during the week. Just pumping out some volume, but I want to just pull away and really make sure I'm not leaving myself short for these big drafts coming up for a little bit. So I'm going to do some digging tonight from this draft and from some main event ADPs this weekend, and also from the 2 auctions that I saw yesterday, one I was in part of. And, probably spend the next 2 days really trying to tidy up the target list for the main event, just like all the pitchers we talked about. I know you can't have a perfect decision tree, but just, be ready at spots to know who you want. I think there's nothing worse than not being ready to make a pick. So get your targets, go get your guys, have fun. It's fantasy baseball. I appreciate you guys, man. Thank you for having me on, and keep doing your thing. I can't wait to listen back later on my ride home to, I'll pop this on the replay.
Excellent. Good luck to you and Dom here for the remaining half of the draft.
All right, guys. Thank you, man. Cheers.
Okay. See you in Vegas, Rob.
All right, back. That was Rob DiPietro, Pull Hitter. Mark, welcome back, sir.
Thank you for having me. My dog appreciated the break. She got a lot of food during this, and buying her off with additional treats so she doesn't bark, hopefully, during this. So,
speaking of, this gives me a little good opportunity here. I'm gonna let you guys do your thing for a few. I'm gonna take my first super quick break.
Sounds good, Mark. Do you see any later picks since you've been out, or anything that you've noticed in the way folks are approaching it? One thing that I did want to mention that I noticed is Sam Horton, team 15. You can't see his full team, but The only other starting pitcher, he has Palencia and Joe Ryan there. And I think it's interesting, his approach up until most recently seemed to be kind of ignoring volume and really trying to get pitchers with really good ratios, your Eovaldis, your Rasmussens, your Ryans. But then he kind of stopped going after pitchers. So I'm curious how that approach is gonna work out too.
I don't think good enough. I just that's so he has 4 starters through 16. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. I can't do that. I have to get my pitching, and I know this is a tough room, and I do like a lot of his picks. Butler seems like a pretty big value where he went. I know there's the injury concerns, and I was interested to hear Rob's take on being more aggressive this year with risk, and injury risk is just one type. There's a name I'm not seeing here. It's Joe Musgrove, and I'm curious. He would have been taken long ago, I believe. It sounds like he's going to start in the IL, but it doesn't sound catastrophic. But I'm finding myself starting to pull back a little bit from my devil may care attitude. I have a few Musgroves. I only have like 5 teams, so I'm a little unhappy with that. And I was taking guys who are coming back from injury, just assuming they're going to be fine. But I'm starting to think that's not the right call.
Yeah, it's interesting. You'll be very proud of me. I've only done one auction so far. And I got Lawrence Butler for $5 in the auction. And he's a $13 player on my board. And he was not a target at all, but he went for $5. And it sounds like he's going to get into spring training games early next week. So I do think that there is interesting, because even with Musgrove, when you read the updates, it's not necessarily that they're saying there's a setback for injuries. It's just they're kind of slow playing him a little bit. And I was curious to see where he went, because he, for me, would be somebody who could be a target later on. Like if he's dropping from the 200 range into the 250s or the 300s, the guys you're drafting past pick 250, I'd say, the chances of them staying on your team for the full season is pretty limited. There's just so much volatility in that range that going after a guy with his track record, playing in one of the best pitcher parks in, is also always solid in ERA. Like those are the types of risks that I wouldn't mind taking. So I'm curious to see where he does, end up going here, because you have, guys like Soriano, who had a massive whip last year. You have Warren, who had a massive whip, like literally like team killers for their whips. So it's going to be interesting to see like where that risk plays in and where it works out and where it doesn't, because it is one of the more challenging decisions I think we have to make in drafts.
Well, I got him for, I think, 6 a couple of times. He's looking like a $2. I have a 500 OLAC tomorrow night. He's looking like a $2 or even a $1 one, which I will be interested in if he falls that far for my SP7, let's just say. Yeah, team 1. I'm sorry to keep picking on him, but again, he now has Brian Wu and Jose Soriano as his 2 starting pitchers to start the year. I love when Ohtani teams neglect pitching, because he's the player that can beat you in every league. And if the team who drafts him is unable to get the balance, then it just takes him out of the picture. So team 1, I'll be amazed if they can compete in pitching. Couple other picks I like. I like Robert Garcia here at the end of the 16th. With Diaz getting released, I think he gets the first shot, even if you get 3 saves out of him. And this does bring back memories, Toby. So curious your thoughts. Last year we were the Garcia boys, and it didn't totally work out. Are you coming back to him this year?
I don't think so. I've been monitoring him closely during spring. Has not looked good from just like a skills perspective, and like to the point where what I typically look for when I'm looking at the box scores is the swinging strike rate and the CSW in addition to the velocity. And I'm not like, I'm looking for some outliers, maybe, and he just, I don't think he's had a single outing where he had a 10% swinging strike rate or higher. And, Chris Martin is just so good that I've really been going after him. I've been doing mostly DCs, but I've just been going after Martin and picking him up. I really like having two high quality closers this year. I think with the dip just overall in volume, what my values are telling me is that those relief pitchers are oftentimes worth it. One of the things that I've mentioned a couple times is if you get, we talked about Cade Smith a little bit earlier, we talked about Mason Miller. Those are two guys who last year had more than 100 strikeouts, right? They had elite ratios and more than 100 strikeouts. You combine those two, and you're looking at sub 3 ERA, sub 1 WHIP, 120 innings, 120 to 140 innings, and 200 Ks with the saves. So imagine if you were getting Tariq Skubal with 40 saves. What would you pay for Tariq Skubal, right? Right now, we're willing to pay $41 for him in an auction. But what if we were getting a spread the risk Tariq Skubal, out of those two players? What would you be willing to pay if Tariq Skubal was getting you 40 saves? So that's kind of how I'm thinking about it a little bit, which may or may not be the right way, but I don't mind paying up for those closers early on. So that's another reason why Garcia hasn't been there for me. I think I have him in maybe 1 or 2 DCs when he was going in the 350 to 450 range. But recently I haven't really been going there. And it's probably a mistake, right? Relief pitchers are so volatile in terms of performance generally that, you just never know. Have you been going there?
I haven't, but if you're trying to get in an auction 2 for 30, he's an option, right? If you're going to go one of the top 5 for 25 and you can get him for 5, there's your 2 for 30. The other 2 for 30 are like the Bednar, Chapman, and Devon tier with like a Santana or a Sir Anthony. That's another 2 for 30. Of course, you have the $15 guys. You got the Fairbanks and the Hoffmans, the Iglesias tier. You can do 2 for 30. So again, as I said earlier, it's figuring out, are you going 30 on your closers? Are you going 40? Like, so I've seen 40, I've seen 50. It's really interesting. I think that's going to be determinative in these auctions.
Were you guys talking about Robert Garcia?
Yeah, we were. Yeah. We were the Garcia boys last year, so we were just checking in to see if we were still on his team, and it looks kind of mixed, maybe.
Yeah. I'm in on him. I think he's potentially underpriced. I still think he's going to be the guy there. I know there's some Chris Martin love, of course, but listen, he's got thoracic outlet. He's almost 40. He doesn't have a huge history of earning saves. And the guys behind there, Cole Winn, obviously they have some guys in the minors that could come up at some point. And I understand Garcia's a lefty and all, but I don't know, just feels solid for me. I feel like he had a little bad luck as well last year. This is a sick staff. I mean, this pitching staff is, if these guys stay healthy, they can really kind of, carry the squad.
Does Masato have any second baseman in the first 4 rounds? Did he grab?
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Correct.
Right. All right, I was just trying to. I'm really liking this team. I love these last few picks. Lyle, I think, is going at a good price. Now I can't see the other ones, but I like them. Where are we? Yeah, Lyle. He took Garcia, and did he? No, he didn't take Garcia. Sorry, he took Senga. Yeah, Senga is looking interesting. I have to
2 miles per hour. Lots of strikes he's throwing, Mark.
He's at least shown that he can be that pitcher. This isn't just like something. I'd have to see more. I have to ding Mike for the Minaya pick. I am off Minaya right now, and I have a couple early shares for $2. I thought it was if he could recapture 04. I'm not seeing it right now. I don't like that pick, but I love the Moniak and Wynn pick that he just did. Those are 2 guys that look good on the file, Toby. I'm assuming you have them a little underpriced.
So does Minaya, though. So does Minaya, Mark.
He does. But
You can't use your discretion on the file. The file just tells you.
I can. I'm gonna. This is the year of file discretion for me. It's not slavishly following the file. It's discretion time.
He's walking around though with like the loose bodies in his elbow. You can hear him jingling as he walks. That's the one concern with him.
I don't like it. I was trying to. If these guys aren't going to take care of an obvious issue, and he looked horrible last year. I mean, absolutely horrible. So I think that's a problem. And then I don't know. I probably shouldn't mention this, but Gleyber Torres. It's just utter disrespect for what he brings to a roto league that he goes this late. I just don't. He's just that boring vanilla guy that no one likes. But you know what? Growing up, vanilla was my favorite ice cream.
It's still a popular one. Still a popular
Mark,
flavor.
quick question for you. What was Sean Manaya's K- walk rate last year?
7%.
24%.
Yeah.
Was it really?
He had insane strikeouts, low walks.
Yeah, he had a 28.5% K rate and 4.6% walk rate last year with a 24% K- walk, 12.6% swinging strike rate, 83% in zone contact, 36% O swing. The skills are all there, man. They're there. He just needs a little bit of luck on his side. Speaking of questionable pitchers, what do you both feel about Raisel Iglesias? Because I feel like he had an incredible second half last year. He's the closer for the Braves from everything we've seen. And obviously, they've also signed Robert Suarez, who last year was the guy nobody wanted to draft because his skills weren't that good at the end of the second half last year. But they signed him for 3 years. It seems pretty intuitive to me that they would let Raisel close out this year, and then Suarez is the closer the next 2 years. But he's dropping like crazy in drafts. Like you mentioned, Mark, in an overinflated closer market, he's a $13, $14 guy in auctions. Are you both comfortable going for him? I haven't really, but I'm also asking myself why I haven't when, it seems like Gecko announced that he was a really bad closing option and the market followed.
I could tell you where I've been on Iglesias and I've been backing off. And part of it is, yes, so you see the market soaring Robert Suarez up there. Obviously, he signed for 3 years, 45, so 15 a year. You got Iglesias re-signed for a 1-year contract, 16. And he missed a little time closing last year. He kind of lost his job. Dylan Lee was in the mix, but Braves just didn't really have many save opportunities during that time. And he remains one of the best control relief pitchers. So this is a guy that's posting sub-3 ERA and a sub-1 WHIP, honestly, like for the last 4 or 5 years, since the Cincinnati days. So he's solid, but I've been kind of backing off because you just kind of get yourself in a pickle, because if he does slip a little bit or just something happens, there's another guy, Robert Suarez, who leads the majors in saves the last couple of seasons. So it's a tough spot to be in. And then when I go through this exercise with all the closers, I ended up with hey, I don't think I even really want any closers, but you got to draft a couple.
Yeah, it's interesting. You'll hear a lot of players talk about first half, second half, and they'll wait the second half when it fits their narrative on a player. He's not the player he was in the first half. He's a second half player. So here's a case where you have a second half player, and it's like, no, he lost his job in the first half. One slip, and they're going to Suarez. Any closer is like 2 or 3 blowups away from losing their job. Not anyone, but like maybe the top 10 aren't, but the rest are. And yes, obviously when you have a better handcuff sitting there, the risk is elevated. I agree with Toby's analysis. I think he's the closer. If he continues his second half and has a good year, I don't think Suarez sniffs 8 saves. But of course, it could go the other way. For $13, I'm definitely willing to find out by going Iglesias. I just have a hard time, and this might be the difference in an auction snake. I can't pay $5 on a guy second in command in the bullpen. Those auction spots are just way too precious for one of your 9 to be a spec and for it to be a $5 spec. So I'll have no Suarez at all, and I'm not going to go all in on Iglesias, but he's certainly underpriced, and on a good team, he has shown he could do it. I still like him quite a bit. And it's just funny how the narrative shifts from last year. Suarez, you would think, is like this is like a Wetland and Mariano Rivera situation. You know, Robert Suarez is the Mariano Rivera waiting in the wings here. After last year, people just absolutely hated this guy. So I like that.
We've got we're going to have a similar scenario here as we did at the first break. So at the second break, that is the end of this round, we're going to have one of the contestants here, one of the competitors and team managers will be joining us, and then we'll have Mark back if you'd love to stay. I'd love to have you.
I would love to stay. I wanted to. So any other teams? Let's see here.
It's nothing. I just just letting you know it's happy birthday to your dad.
It's your birthday. It's amazing, and you share it with Stephen Curry.
You know who else with born 100 years to the day after Albert Einstein? So
wow,
there was no roto back then, or I'm sure he'd had a whole different career.
For sure, that's a lot of pressure, Vlad.
Let's see. All right, are they drafting or just viewers? We are not drafting. We are the hired announcers. So we are breaking it down. No, I think to play, would you be able to stream and draft a 5,000 entry draft at the same time, Toby? Would you want to?
Sure, I can talk whenever, wherever.
Hell yeah.
No, it would be hard. It would be hard for sure, but it might be fun.
Let's see. So any kind of, the players now are just whatever. Are there any, maybe at the break after you talk, maybe show, I don't know, if you can shrink the board just to maybe have some analysis on just overall builds here. I'm really curious to see how some of these teams are looking. Any favorites of yours? Anyone have like a favorite team here other than Mager that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I do like Mike's. I like the way Team 13s is coming together. I really like his start with his first five with Gunnar, Christopher Sanchez, Langford, Riley, Sheehan, and a nice stable closer in Kenley Jansen. Still has a little bit in the tank. Should be the lead guy. Trevor McGill, I think he should be good, so long as he doesn't get hurt. And some kind of, like Jonathan Aranda, we got to see him up close for Mexico in the WBC. Bogarts, Bohm, and Simeon are just, some of those boring compilers, right? Just guys that are going to help you get there. So I kind of like his build as well.
Yeah, I would
go ahead, Toby. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say Santeu. I know that he went really pitcher heavy, but I like pretty much every single one of his picks. If you scroll up, I think he went Gunnar, and then he went Sanchez. I really like Sanchez. I mean, a fourth guy, I think that will be a sub-3 ERA, probably around a 1 WHIP, and will get you 220 strikeouts on a really good team. So I think that's a really nice base. I'm not a Wyatt Langford fan, but I do like Austin Riley. I think, Riley obviously has struggled with some injuries recently, but playing a full season with Acuna and the Braves, the top of the Braves lineup in front of him, I think is a really nice play. Goodman, I like Sheehan as well a lot. Goodman fell a decent amount. I think that's a really valuable pick right there. I have Goodman as a top 50 player overall from the catcher position. I like Woodruff a lot. He went with Jansen and McGill. McGill has looked really, really good this spring. I know a lot of folks are betting on Abner Uribe, but with McGill throwing like he's throwing, I think he at least gets a pair of that. And that's enough in a standalone where you don't need the huge numbers. You just need to compete for it. And then I really like the picks, like Aranda from a batting average power perspective. Xander Bogaerts is one of my favorite guys across the board. Bohm is a really good value at third base, gives you batting average, and he's going to get you RBIs. He's hitting cleanup in that Phillies lineup. So I think there's a lot of guys to like for Santeu as well. So I'd add him there. I think the start of three pitchers to start off is not a bad approach. I think it's I really like the builds that I've seen when people do that, and then they go a lot of hitters after it. So I think those are the three that probably stand out for me as the ones I like the most.
Well, it just so happens that we have Team 13 in the building. We're going to switch over to Jason Santu here. Jason,
What's
welcome.
happening? How you doing, guys?
Good. How's the draft treating you?
Are we putting on a show for you?
Yeah.
We were just talking about your team.
Yeah. Well, love to hear it. Let's go.
I think Toby was just saying he loves pretty much all your picks, which is for me, music to my ears usually.
Yeah. I mean, hey, we all love confirmation bias, right?
For sure. Well, I'm just curious, like the approach, like were you going into it thinking, hitter heavy early on with the ace to lead it, and then going volume with some of those like maybe slightly lower volume but really solid pitchers like Woodruff in there? Like, was that the approach that you were thinking of based on how you saw the board falling, or was it just kind of?
If I get an ace, I always feel a little more comfortable waiting a little bit, and so getting Sanchez there was fine. I mean, I know. Everyone says pitching gets pushed up in mains. This is kind of pitching getting pushed up on steroids in this league every time. So you could really throw ADP out the window in this room. People go get their guys, and so you've got to adjust. And I've kind of learned, I think it's my third year in this league. So, trying to make sure I try and stay balanced, even if I wait a little bit. But I got a few guys that I really wanted to get up front, and having Sanchez there as an ace. And I think I filled it in pretty nicely. So I'm pretty happy with where it's sitting right now.
Yeah, we were talking about some of these later round guys who, I mean, a lot of them used to be top 100 players, and they're a little older, but they're solid. So has been a theme for you? I don't know how much you've been drafting so far, but these guys like Xander Bogaerts, Alec Bohm, Marcus Semien, even Cedric Mullins will change the scenery in Tampa. Yeah. So and Swanson, of course, is on the all boring team, but dude always.
Yeah, I'm fine with boring. I've watched a lot of Hall of Famers win with boring, so I think I'm 3 for 3 on Xander Bogaerts now. So apparently, he seems to fall right where my needs are every time. But yeah, guy's going to lead off. It gives you a little bit of everything, some speed there, which is nice. So. Definitely like that, but yeah, I'm all over guys like M. Swanson. I expect a bounce back year out of Bohm. I mean, he was really fell off last year, but he's still hitting clean up. Nothing really changed in the skills, and I expect him to kind of bounce back with a nice average and some good counting stats in that spot in the lineup. So getting him at corner was pretty happy with that.
Hunter Goodman pick, was that something where you're just like, this is too good to pass up from a value perspective, or was he somebody that you were hoping for or have been looking at in other drafts? Because to me, that's one of the standout kind of this guy dropped way too far.
Yeah, he's a target in my list for sure. I'm one of those guys that basically goes through the whole board and figures out all the guys I want and kind of draft from that. I was actually going to take him at the 4-5 turn in my earlier draft, and Langoliers fell all the way to me, so I took him instead. But getting Goodman where I got him was I was thrilled with that, obviously, given where I got him ranked. But it's funny because he was, I think, was he second best catcher last year, I believe. Yep. And the thing is, everybody, a lot of people he's falling on the boards, and they're talking about him falling, but he was consistent all year long. Like there wasn't big gaps. He didn't have huge slumps at any point. I mean, he stayed consistent for the whole season. So I'm pretty comfortable, with him going into the season.
I was going to say, for those not familiar with Jason, he's an excellent NFBC player, and got to talk about the 2 seasons ago. Maybe you don't want to talk about it, but you basically
bringing it up.
You kind of drafted the nuts. So in the main event, you were leading. You had 2 teams in the top 3 for a good chunk of the season. You were odds-on favorite to win it. Didn't win it, but you came in 2nd and 3rd overall, if I'm not mistaken. And you had the perfect main event start, where I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you were picking either 14 or 15, and you ended up with Judge and Ohtani, right?
Yeah, there was a Judge Ohtani build.
This is 2024.
And I still had managed to get it done. Go figure, but. Yeah, that was the Ohtani gambling year, so he was falling a little bit for silly reasons. But I was happy to take him where I did. So, but yeah, that was a hell of a run, man. It was fun to be a part of. I was technically in the lead after Saturday going into Sunday. I knew Clark was going to overtake me because he had 4 starts and he ended up getting 4 wins. probably beat me by about 60 or 70 points. So he ran away with it, so to speak, on Sunday. But to be that close was a lot of fun and painful as well. So hope to get back there one of these days.
Are you looking for some magic at the back end, or if you're setting KDS, are you kind of focusing more on the front end or the middle?
No, I leave it chalk on KDS. Yeah, I let the fantasy gods take it. I don't even like to. I said wherever it lands, and you guys know you can win from anywhere in this thing. So I have certain places I'd rather be, but I'll go at it from wherever it lands.
Straight buttas, as Matt Medica calls it.
I just don't like to feel like, I decided I wanted this instead of that, and then the draft goes totally different. And, it's hard to pin down. So I just take it how it comes. I've had some good luck though, as everyone complains about KDS. I think 10 or last 11 drafts, I got 3 top picks. So right now I'm in the good groove with the randomizer.
That's great. Yeah, KDS karma is a thing.
Yeah. I'm curious, like last 10 picks, how do you approach these typically? Like, are these players that you're where you're betting on upside? Is it mixing it up? Like, how do you generally like to fill out your roster from here, since this is a fab league and you'll have that fab period before the season starts?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take some shots. I mean, I definitely, I'll keep my eyes on where I think my weak points are and try to fill those out if I can. But definitely it's one of those spots, especially in the last few, where you take a few shots on some guys. I'm always churning the bottom end like everybody else, and so you take a shot on somebody and hope it hits early, and if it doesn't, you can kind of move on. So definitely have some guys there, but heavy focus, especially in 21 to 25, is making sure I'm filling out whatever remaining needs I feel like I have left.
Looking around, have you had a chance to look at the board so far, like what others are doing? Is there another team that like stands out to you that you feel is also drafting well, or just somebody you think is just like way off their game today?
Yeah, I am not one who watches the board at all, so I'm not going to give you any good nuggets on that. As far as really looking at other teams, I'm always focused on what my team is and what I'm looking for, so I really don't absorb what everyone else is doing until the end, unless I'm getting sniped left and right by somebody next to me, which fortunately hasn't happened yet too much in this one. But honestly, it's a great room. There's a tremendous amount of talent in this room, and so I'm sure there's a lot of great teams out there that you guys are looking at right now.
Me, I go by the guts. I got to ask you, what's the spread like? Is it good food, or people eating, or are they just kind of focused on drafting? And
we've had stereotypical. We've had Jersey Mike subs and Jersey pizza, so they're making sure we're taking care of the Jersey way out here. But Mike's an incredible host, man. I would just tell anybody, get a chance to come out here. I mean, Vegas is great. New Jersey is just as much fun. And this was the first time I came out in this league 2 years ago because I wanted to get in a high stakes, and this was the only option. And he's a tremendous host. We all go back to his house after. He's got the craziest basement you'll ever see. Smoke cigars till 3 a.m, talk baseball. I mean, it's an incredible weekend, and it's the best part of NFBC, man. These guys are all amazing. We all share the same passion, and so it's a ton of fun to be together and do it live.
Jason, thank you so much for coming on. You guys
appreciate you.
Straight wrapping up here, so good luck and crush it on these last 10 picks. Thanks for visiting.
Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate you taking the time today, and happy birthday, Vlad.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Yeah. All right, Jason Santu bringing Mark back into the building. All right.
Oh, that hurt. The mention of Jersey pizza, that hurt me deep. That is what I missed the most about being in Colorado for the last 30 plus years is. And I would love to be there. I had so many friends and family still there. It just always hits with spring break, and my family is currently in Arizona on spring break. I'm back here working and tending to our senior rescue dog, and I get my spring break next weekend in Vegas. So one of these days I'm going to have to just figure it out, and maybe I'll convince them to go to Jersey for spring break, and then we could all go there. That's the plan.
And that's where the draft is happening today. It's a live 15-team 5x5 standard roto draft over on NFBC. It's a standalone league, and it's a 5K entry. We got some heavy hitters here. We are in the middle of the second break here and going to go through the home stretch. 30 rounds in this draft. And got Toby and Mark with me here. Lots of great guests along the way, doing things. And getting ready. Baseball season is around the corner. You guys going to watch the game on Sunday, the WBC championship, and any chance that the Dominican takes this one?
I have not watched any of the WBC. I'm a terrible fantasy baseball player because I don't really watch fantasy baseball or baseball all that much preseason. So I won't be, but it is lovely to see the amount of like energy and passion that some of these teams are bringing to the table. So it should be fun, no doubt.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I hate to say it. I just listen. If people love it, that's great. We need, especially now, anything that people get excited about, have passion with. I'm all for it. It's just not for me, but I'll be watching the PBA Illinois Classic tomorrow. My other fun passion is bowling and professional bowling and watching my son bowl. So I'll probably do that on Sunday and then get ready for my $500 auction. I wanted to ask you guys, Team 14, the War Dog. This is The Last Dance Part 3. No new money. Is he going to? Are we going to see the War Dog next year based on his? He only has 2 teams this year. Based on Team 14, will the War Dog be back in play next year, or is this truly the last dance? I think that's the question. I think he's got some serious upside with his pitching, but it's high risk. I think he got Snell in there, Amai, Strider, Lodolo. That could be an amazing staff with the other hitters he has. I do note he doesn't have a third baseman yet. I don't think that would be a little concerning for me this late in the draft. But just curious if the War Dog is he gonna get more money back for the bankroll moving forward is the question.
Mid-range squad. I think some of the I like obviously guys like Roman Anthony, Byron Buxton, Kirby. He's got a lot of good players there with upside. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. Ivan Herrera is a phenomenal discount as well. By the way, it's every day is a new story, but the story today is that he seems like he's going to be okay, but he's just had knee issues and whatnot. So hopefully he stays healthy. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if the Clayton Beater pick is the kiss or death or not. Maybe it's good luck charm.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the squad. But Vlad and I talked about Roman Anthony a little bit there. I know he got him later than he typically might go, but and then the pitching is there's potential there for sure, but just a lot of question marks. The Spider plus Amai. I like Snell as a later on pick, but if I've got a really solid staff ahead of that, so yeah, I don't know. And then, Beater, I know that people are liking him as kind of like a late round spec for saves. If you look at his walk rate throughout everything, it is astronomical. I hope I'm being accurate here when I say that, but I remember last year I was monitoring him in the same way, and it was last year across 2 teams. It was 17.3%. In the minors last year, it was 18.4%. In AAA, it was 23.5%. I mean, that is a scary proposition to have as a closer. So even if I knew he was the closer, I would not be drafting Clayton Beater because people cannot succeed in Major League Baseball with that type of a walk rate.
I have very few rules for myself this year. One of them is just do not touch the bullpens of the A's and specifically the Nationals and the Rockies. I mean, there are 27 other major league teams. It's not a game I want to play. It's usually a messy one. I was bringing up how the other day on a pod that how Seth Halverson is kind of back in the mix. And of course, he was the closer before he got hurt. And dude, he had again, I know you guys aren't, super locked in on the spring stuff, nor should it matter all that much. But in his first start back, he had like 7 walks in an inning with like just getting just battered and bruised. And it's just a rough road for those guys. So for me, closer specs, I'm also always looking at, backup plans on good teams and pitchers with high Ks, low walks, and things like that.
I want to circle back to Fleming's team. He's a sniper in these standalone high stakes nosebleed leagues. He is just such a really good player. He's won this one, I think, 3 in a row at one point. So we had started with him. He waited till Dylan Cruz in the 12th, and we kind of questioned if his outfield would get there. So it's Cruz, Trout, Adolis, and Stanton. How do you all think he did in going in rounds 12 through 20 to get those 4 outfielders? Do you think that's good enough with the rest of his team?
I mean, to me, it's clear he's going to be doing some fab this year for outfield. I think it's the way it breaks, right? Like I remember having a build where the Springer Suzuki range was my first outfielder, and even that didn't feel comfortable. You always feel like you're behind the 8 ball trying to catch up. So we'll see how he shores up. Like maybe he grabs a couple, but I could see a little bit of fab in his future. But then again, with his track record and good fortune, maybe it just works out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on what the rest of his team looks like. I like Adolis a lot. I can see the Trout pick. Cruz, I think, has potential to be a real breakout, so I don't mind him either. You've got a lot of injury concern, right? I mean, with Cruz, Trout, and Stanton. And so on a per plate appearance basis, it's not too scary, but it just depends on how he fills it in. I do think that with outfield, there is some decent, there's some decent fill-in guys, like having done a lot of DCs. Like I think building an outfield that's like 7 deep, 7-8 deep early on in these reserves rounds may be an approach that you can take there, where you have guys like Jake Myers, right, who can get you decent batting average, some speed, and to fill in when these guys aren't available to play. So I think it's not ideal. I do like the Kirby Yates pick. I think he's a guy that looks more and more like the closer in the Angels. I don't know if you all saw, but today Robert Stevenson looks like he's got some UCL damage potentially. So there's another one. And all of a sudden, you're looking at, Kirby Yates, who I saw a quote, I think it was in the Mining the News maybe, that Jeff Zimmerman does, about how Suzuki wants to go with one guy and referred to him as one of the best closers in the league. So that's one where I don't have a lot of Kirby Yates, and I'm kind of wishing I did at this point in time. So the outfield's a little light, but I know that we did really like some of the picks that Scott had earlier. So it may just be that outfield's the place where he felt like the upside was worth it, or the way the draft fell, that he would have a really strong infield and build from there.
Yeah, Kirby Yates is going to be going up, by the way, the price. Just with the Robert Stevenson news, you got obviously you've got Ben Joyce not quite ready. Jordan Romano in the mix. I mean, come on now. Drew Pomeranz, the top lefty. So the Yates price is starting to go up, and the window to buy is falling.
I want to give Ned Donahue, Team 5, some love, and I can't see his first 5 picks, but I'm really liking how this team is looking. Acuna, Sale, Lindor, Michael, Yuri, Baldwin, Fairbanks, Gray, Seager, Altuve, Ranger Suarez, Ward, Burleson, Reynolds, Ashcraft, Robert Garcia, Vargas. I'm liking this team a lot. This team's kind of snuck up on me. You got Brett Beatty in there, Clay Holmes, shot on McCarthy in Colorado. I think that's a really good squad. I think it's a balanced squad. A lot of really solid players. I like that team. That one's kind of is growing on me. I think he's right up there.
I mean, like we're
great player too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what do we expect out of Drake Baldwin? I mean, reigning National League Rookie of the Year, showed incredible plate patience with a 15% strikeout rate. You've got Sean Murphy hurt, and not that he was a threat anyways, but Murphy would have DH'd a little. But Baldwin might catch more. He's hitting, projected hit second or at least top 4 in that lineup. It's a great place for him to be. And so he's been slowly moving up my draft board. He's one of those guys that I don't necessarily think is going to have a sophomore slump.
He's one of those players that you might regret passing on, and he could be on a lot of teams that win leagues, I think, if he has the year. I haven't got there yet, but he's going at a pretty reasonable price he could be C2 this year, possibly. And he's going as C8 or something? Maybe 6. Not cheap, but I think that's a good call.
All right, time to move this board down a little bit, and they're moving fast. What I kind of like a lot of times in the high stakes, like players know who they want, managers know, and you're not seeing a lot of shuffling through papers and trying to find somebody who to draft. Like these guys are ready to make their picks. They have their list for the reserve round. So we'll see. Hopefully I don't jinx it, and this keeps flowing quickly.
No, I could testify to that just in talking to Mike. He took Peterson, Tyone, and Bell, and those were the 3 of 6 guys he mentioned to me were on his short list. So he got half of them. Boom, boom, boom. I guess he's a bigger Met fan than me. He's got Soto, he's got Manaea, he's got Peterson. He probably would have taken Benj there if he didn't get sniped by Donahue. No, I don't think so, but he's going pretty Mets heavy there.
I feel like some of those late Cubs pitchers are a little bit of a cheat code too. Your Matthew Boyds, your Jamison Tyones. They have such a good defensive midfield. I'm a soccer fan, clearly, but up the middle, I mean, you've got Nico Horner, Dansby Swanson, PCA, all of them, whether it's replicable or not, project for a pretty nice whip. And that late in draft, if you can get guys that either contribute to or at least don't hurt you in whip with a solid bullpen, that to me, I really like those guys later on in drafts.
No. Just real quick on what Santu said, which I thought was interesting. You asked him if he's looking at the board, and he said no. That's a big difference with auctions and snakes, right? In a snake, unless you're say, and he has picked 13. Sometimes if, when I was doing snakes, if I was pick 3 or 4 or 12 or 13, I would be looking at the teams, on the end there to see if I could potentially float a guy around the turn. But I think he's right. Generally, it's not that relevant in a snake, but in an auction, you really do need to be paying attention to who other people have, especially later when it gets down to dollar days, and you have to know who to nominate, who needs a position, who has a max bid that can top you if you're both fighting for the same spot. So I like that nuance about understanding other people's builds and teams, that in a snake it's pretty irrelevant for the most part, and in an auction it's fairly relevant.
Mark, you're a podcast guy. Tell us about where people can hear you.
Well, I am currently co-hosting the NFBC Auction Podcast, which I think we've had a fun year so far. I think we really brought, and this is FTN's doing this. There's so much more auction content this year, and it's amazing. The NFBC has sold out the OLAC. It's probably its biggest number of leagues ever, and I think they're headed towards a 20,000 overall prize. I really do.
Wow.
They're having to shut it off. I think today they could probably fill another 20 to 30 auctions in the last 10 days, and then they have a 14 auction championship. So I'm really excited that the industry has come around to auctions as another format to contend with, and I think it's undeniable. They're having their biggest auction year ever, and I tweeted out earlier, it's the growth stock of fantasy. I think both content and both contests. So just love to see people jumping into auctions. I see so many new names in that OLAC, people who have never played NFBC auctions before, and honestly, there's 4 auctions going on in Vegas on Friday afternoon, including the the CLQ, the Champions League, going off with 3 other auctions. They've never had 4 live auctions at the same time. So There
Yes,
it is.
there it
New
is.
Jersey. Nice. I love it. I love it.
There it is. I got some other ones shipped from Phil over here. Chef Mike's going to pick up and bring them to Vegas. Mark, where can people find you, by the way?
Oh, so yeah, on Twitter, yeah, just MARC_Winokur, WINOKUR. The occasional snarky reply. Not the best content guy, at least on Twitter. You know, I think in podcasts, I'm finding a little niche and really enjoying it. Love talking about this hobby of ours, and it's just it's kind of a thrill to get this chance. So thank you.
Here we go. Home stretch. 6 more rounds to go.
Definitely miss Toby on the mic. He was one of my absolute go-to podcast listens when he was back with Bubba and when he would do guest spots. Would like to see him get out there a little more on some of these podcasts. He's someone I'm always listening to for sure.
Very nice of you, Mark. I never say no if somebody invites me on. That's my thing. So I'm happy to join on, just not doing all the recording and production and everything like that on a weekly basis. I have a lot of respect for Vlad and other folks who do that, and it's great because I listen to those pods and I enjoy that content a lot. So shout out to the people out there grinding and making all the content for all of us to enjoy when we're cleaning the kitchen at night, you know?
Your kitchen?
Absolutely.
Yeah. You have kids, the kitchen's dirty nonstop, but
Yes, nonstop. You're like, how does this happen every single day?
Paul Seawald I'm sorry, go ahead, Mark.
No, I was just say you'll miss that dirty kitchen when they are going off to college. Let me just tell you, you will be pining for those days of stuff everywhere. The good thing is when my daughter comes back from college, we get a very the house gets very dirty very quick for those couple days she's back. So we do get to still experience that. But ooh, that's a snipe. Mager was okay. Interesting. Yeah, Clement Ozuna was also on his short list, so he would. I think he was probably going to go Ozuna there. Clement's a good multi-position guy. It covers a few of his, I think, second and third, where he only had one of each potentially. So I think that's a good pick there for him for coverage. How much are you in these snakes? So we're in what, 24? What are you?
I can't believe Clement
are you looking
made
for
it
coverage? You're looking for upside. Like, what do you do in these last 5 picks typically?
For me, mix of upside. I want to have some early season coverage with players, and really, I want to make sure that I'm locking in on players that I think could potentially that have not won a job yet, and that whose ADPs will soar, and that might go for a lot of money in Fab in that first week. I want to try to secure some of those guys, and I am looking at the schedule a little bit too, right? Because usually we have a half week to start. Sometimes you can almost, you can consider that first half week. You can add it onto that first week, call it like, the 10 days, a week and a half. You don't have to field all 9. At least that's not how I, do it. I don't want to impact my draft by drafting, like a Shawn Armstrong just because the Cleveland Guardians have 4 games in the first half week. Like maybe I'll look into a win, but if it's going to come at the expense of someone who's actually a target for my team, I don't necessarily want to do it. But I'll usually go a little bit more pitching heavy on the bench.
Yeah, I'm going pitching heavy typically. Looking at the similar to Vlad, like looking at the first couple weeks, maybe there's a guy who has a nice run in, or there's just a pitcher that I like. I typically will take 1 or 2 closer specs. I like to have players who are like, not that this is always the case, but like where you have relatively definitive information on them heading into that first or second Fab period where I have an easy drop, right? If it works out, great. If it doesn't, then I want to be able to drop somebody and not have to think too hard about it. So, going for some of these later closer specs where, there's a 50% chance or a 40% or a 30% chance that they could be the closer. But if they're not, I'm totally cool with it, just moving forward, and I'm not relying on that happening. So that's generally like how I approach it. Like, I think I'll probably leave with like 5 or 6 pitchers out of the last 7 picks here, especially in the higher stakes leagues. I find that that tends to be the case across a lot of different teams, and so the pitching pool is very, very thin heading into that first fab period.
I'm very surprised Logan Henderson fell that far. Right, that's him in the.
He's fine. He's
I mean,
I understand the elbow concerns, but I think he's fine.
he's probably a ticking time bomb. Let's not kid ourselves. However, you're in round 25, and you were just talking about upside pitching. I mean, I don't think you can get more upside than that. I think he goes in auctions well before the 25th round, like, dollar relative. He's a $2 to $5 player in every single auction. So that seems to be a good pick by Semcel there.
Even the Clement pick, that's really late for Clement. He's been high 200s. I think in most of the snake drafts that I've seen, and even, that's fascinating. I mean, I got him for $4, I think, in the auction that I just had. So
Talented hockey player too. By the way, interesting. The team 1 Miller, who has Carlos Estevez, did not get a chance to scoop up Lucas Ursig, and of course that's assuming that Ursig is the guy behind him. We thought we were talking about this time last year, where Ursig was actually going ahead of him for Ben Estevez for quite some time, but he already kind of dipped into that closer pool, so I don't think he was looking to back up Estevez, because Team 1 has Ryan Helsley, then Estevez, and Robert Suarez, and Grant Taylor. So most likely he was not going to go with another closer there. I wonder what he's doing over there.
I do like Grant Taylor.
Yeah.
I don't want to pick on him anymore. But Horton, interesting. He paired Teal and Cuero there. Does he have a third catcher, or is that his 2 catchers? Does he have any other catcher?
No other catchers.
Interesting. Because that's his 2 catchers right now. I mean, I guess he'll take a third. He has to. That's an interesting. In a snake, that's not. That's
I don't mind the combo.
Yeah.
Getting that combo.
Yeah.
But like, if you had another catcher,
right? That's right. Cuero, decent bat. He's going to get a good month, maybe plus. He could be a little sneaky there if he's going in the reserve rounds of auctions. I could see him going for $1 or $2 now in some auctions. I think people would maybe take him as their second, run him out there for a month, and just get a spec. Get a Patrick Bailey in the reserve round, or another guy you could plug in once Teal comes back.
Yeah, with Kyle Teal hitting the IL and missing probably the first few weeks of the season, Corey Lee is back in our lives, so he's going to be the projected backup there for Edward Quero.
Okay.
And hey, what's up, Richard? It's almost over, but Richard Zito, what did I miss? You missed everything, but you can watch it on the FTN YouTube channel anytime you want. Watch on my Twitter feed, FTN Fantasy's Twitter feed. And so we this turned out beautifully, Toby, that we've had Mark with us for most of this time, and to get this analysis and have a wonderful 3-person booth. And so far it's been good, but party's almost over, unfortunately.
There he goes. Joe Musgrove finally off the board here. I just
it's wild.
Think that is a crazy good pick by Einhorn. I don't know. Mike and I talked earlier. We're like, we're done with Musgrove, and he really meant it. I would have taken him 4 or 5 rounds ago.
Yeah.
After saying I'm off him, I would have taken the shot on him. That's a really, really late pick. He just went. Yeah, he got Sterner, Seawald, Musgrove. There's some potential there. That's an interesting late 3 pitcher that Einhorn just did there. If one of those hits, he's in a good spot.
Yeah, 3 of those.
I like that type of approach.
The three relievers there, I wanted to just scroll up and see, because he's got Roger Stern and Seawald, what else he got before then. And it looks like, he just punted relievers basically. So he told us before the show, he's got a plan.
Got a
before this
plan.
draft
That was
started.
fun saves.
That was it.
Not the worst plan this year with how they're looking. Maybe you get lucky. There's always fab, and this just gives you an opportunity to bulk up elsewhere, and it's a standalone. You don't need to compete in every category necessarily, and saves are one you can pick up in season. It just costs you. That's a nice little. And he had Rogers there. Yeah, no, I like that. Yeah, Rogers going to get a few saves. He can throw him out there. He'll get a few.
Yeah, I got a little prediction, and I mean, obviously, hope the best for Liam Hendriks, but I'm going to say the Hendricks helium skyrockets, and then it just doesn't work out. That's kind of my thoughts there. I not to say that Taylor Rogers is amazing or anything. He's had better years, but maybe this is another situation to avoid. It's tough in Minnesota.
And just a shout out to Richard when he wrote before, he mentioned s'mores, which I do fantasy baseball content and I also do s'mores content. I'm a huge fan of incorporating candy bars into s'mores as opposed to just plain chocolate. So shout out to Richard for that.
So that's s'mores plus is what you're saying. That's one of the metrics.
For sure.
Well, Richard, if you can hear me, bring those to Midnight Madness. That would be a nice snack for that draft. So hopefully that could soak up some of the copious alcohol I'm sure that we'll be getting. Although actually, in fact, don't bring any food, guys. Sorry, just drink. That's my way of success in that league.
I was going to say that's your strategy in the Midnight Madness League is just being sober.
Well, the biggest wild card this year is Dusty Wagner is in this, and he will probably be requiring me to have a bunch of Red Bull and vodkas. My only hope is the bar closes at midnight, so I will have a little chance there. I'm going to have to really use my best slow play of drinking I've ever done on Friday night to be okay.
Oh, that's the one. I was going to show this one. Justin Mason. Remember when people got mad at me for streaming drafts? Yeah, I remember many years ago, and the world has changed a lot since. And here we are from a large audience. I got two of the best high stakes players and analysts in the game with me. And we're breaking down a 5K entry NFBC draft that's happening live in New Jersey. And we're getting here towards the tail end. Kind of an interesting range of outfielders, some former big names. Jorge Soler is hitting for power right now, as he usually does, and he's doing that in the spring right now. Mike Yastrzemski might be the hottest hitter in the spring right now, joining the Red Hot Braves team. Brandon Marsh, maybe get a little bit less platoon time. Nick Castellanos in a new situation. And then Tyler O'Neill. I can never quit the man. So number 3 hitter for the Canadian lineup in the WBC.
Yeah, the Tyler O'Neill, Jorge Soler, they seem to be kind of the latest power bats available in drafts. Once those guys go off the board, it's pretty slim pickings. So I like those, and like you mentioned, Vlad, both of them having really strong springs to start off with. And
Fleming added Isaac Collins and Soler to that outfield room with Stanton, Adolis, Trout, Cruz. So hey, he's trying to volume it as much as he can. I think he's, not the best outfield on the board, obviously, but given when he started, it's maybe passable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, with Jorge Soler, like he's either done or I don't think there's going to be any in between. Like he's going to just do his thing, hit 237 with 27 bombs if he stays healthy, or you just won't hear from him again. That's kind of how I feel, like kind of all or nothing. And Isaac Collins is honestly to me a little sneaky. I know he was a little bit of an older prospect and really kind of made his name in Milwaukee. He was first a short side platoon guy, and then he started getting in the lineup a lot. He's speedy, steals some bases, and now he's there in Kansas City in Kaufman, where they have moved the fences up a little bit. He had a little bit of a health thing, had like a PRP injection, I believe, in the preseason, but seems to be good now. So I think Isaac Collins is another sneaky guy.
What do you think about that Volpe pick there? Last pick of round 26. Is that the kind of profile you would take a shot on these last 5 picks?
I love 220 hitting stashes. Just love them.
And
I think the
Gold Glover,
challenge,
right? Gold Glove 220 hitter.
well, he's definitely going to take down the golden glove category in this 5x5 plus roto. I think that I don't know what's the latest timeline. I think the challenge is like a player like that, keeping him on your bench for a month plus is a little questionable, just because I'm not sure the value is sufficient. Whereas a Blake Snell, like a real difference maker, yes, but not if somebody isn't a clear difference maker.
Well, this is why Mager is going into the Hall of Fame. Lourdes Gurriel in the 27th round. That's super sneaky. He's looking like he's coming back here, and that could be such a good pick. He could be one of his everyday starting outfielders if he gets back to doing what he's doing. I love that pick in the 27th.
Yeah, I like the Jeff McNeil pick before too.
Which one? Tom. Oh yeah. Oh McNeil. Yep. Donahue paired Robert Garcia with Chris Martin, so he might have that bullpen on lock, possibly. So that's not a bad move there.
On the Volpe thing, the only thing I want to say, obviously not all negative. It's at least for me at that point in the draft, I usually already have a stash. I'm going to have somebody like a Carlos Rodon, or most likely, right? And so, or maybe Connor Griffin, who may not be up right away. And so I want to kind of minimize that. And so if I already have that, I don't want to put myself further behind if I have like 2 guys, and then in the first week of the season, someone gets hurt, and I end up with a stash of bench guys and then very little roster flexibility.
Yeah, that stash to bench ratio is really an important decision. Most people say they only want 1 stash, but is that really true? Do they only want 1? I could see having more than 1. I think you just have to be willing to cut bait, which is, I think, the hardest thing when you stash. It's because you're just like, oh, just one more week. And then you could really start to hurt your flexibility, missing out on a good fab pickup, and you could really compound it. So I'm okay starting with more than 1. I just have to have more discipline to jettison if there's any type of setback, or if there's a better option to take, just letting them go. And I think that's a big part of the game, is because usually those stashes have the higher upside, the better profile. If you can get them back, then a lot of the other guys you'll be on your bench there. So it's just a tough balance. Hunter
Green off the board. We're not going to see him until midsummer, so that's a stash definitely right there. I don't think that Einhorn has taken many stashes up until that point in the draft. Interesting range here. Justin Verlander still has another year in him. Looks pretty good, actually. Lance McCullers. Any love for McCullers, or are you guys in the never again category? Are you willing to give a guy another look?
No, never again for me.
I'd be willing to. I don't mind it here. McCullers is actually, I think, I'm going to double check, but I think he's actually looked pretty good this spring. Not much, but last year there was a period of time. There was like 2 starts where he looked absolutely incredible. And obviously it's just 2 starts, and you don't want to follow that. And he's not a guy that you want to plug right into your lineup, but if he could, even for a few week period, put together some of those elite skills, it could be nice. I think the challenge, it's more like a DC play for me. I mean, he's going like after pick 600, I think, in DCs. So it may be more of that mindset talking, but there are certain players who have a skill level that's so far beyond what you're getting in this area that if there's any chance that they may be able to put it together, if even for a short time, it can be really helpful.
All right, I'm going to guess Mike's 28th round pick here. It's going to be Justin Steele, who I think is another interesting stash. Unless I miss him on the board, I don't see him. So let's see if I could call this one. I'm calling Justin Steele here. He's the last big stash.
Gotta deserve some sort of prize if it
I feel like I'm on the edge of
here.
a cliffhanger.
This is fairly dramatic here.
He's really thinking about it. Mike,
I guess Gurriel is a staff. Maybe he won't want
He's a
2 in a row.
28. There's a pick 28, Mike. You don't need to take the full minute, bro.
Come on, this is we're podcasting this, Mike. Let's go. You're
You know
Whitlock.
he likes Whitlock.
Okay. All right. That's a good pick too, though. I think that's a good arm you could throw in there as your ninth pitcher on occasion.
Yeah, and also like thinking about that first half week of the year, you know that not everybody's going to have a start. So having a really solid reliever you can throw in there and hope he gets 2 outings isn't a bad strategy either.
Yeah, I struggle I don't know about you all, but like the early drafts, I just can't think about that stub week. I'm just drafting, and then I try to look at it a little more for the big events here to make sure I have as close of a full staff in that first 3 days. But I look at some of my existing teams, I'm like, ooh, this is not going to be good. I have like 5 pitchers, I think. So.
By the way, our first fab period in the NFBC is next Sunday. So before the season starts, for all teams that have drafted before then, there's going to be the fab period. So it's something to keep in mind with your planning, because you will have an opportunity to drop some guys, to get some targets. And hey, before you know it, you might have only 400 left before the season even starts. You never know.
That's a big edge I have. I'm leaving late Saturday night from Vegas. I will be home in the comfort of my house for Sunday fab and won't have to do it in Vegas. That's a hidden edge that I've come up with. All right, Mike, one more chance here. Round 29. Let's do it. Come on, Steele. Go for it. Go for it. One chance.
What is the latest on Steele? Is it still like a month?
Yeah, I mean, he's, again.
Good timetable.
Yeah, it's a good timetable. Will Vest. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, he's had enough of Steele. All right, that's fine.
He's really fallen off towards the back end of this draft. I loved his team until he went Will Vest in the 29th round.
I would only do that if I had Jansen. Yeah, I don't see, unless he's just building for that first week, that first 3 days just to get another closer in there. But yeah, Tolley would have been a night. Yeah, I would have taken a shot on an upside pitcher. Tolley's a good one. Steele would have been one. Yeah, back-to-back Whitlock and Vest, I'm not a huge fan of. One would have been enough.
And so he had Yohan Duran and Dennis Santana up until that point. So just grabbing a couple guys, and you never know with the Mager luck, Mager energy. You know how it goes. So all of a sudden, Chapman and Kenley are like done, and then you got 2. Now you got your 3 and 4.
That's
knock on wood. Sorry.
Yeah, it's dark.
Yeah. It's you stream for nearly 4 hours. The brain starts to get a little dark, but it's been fun.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see who is projected to win this one. I think we've identified a lot of teams we like. There's a couple teams we're not as hot on. So, but kudos to these guys for ponying up $5K for a fantasy baseball league. I aspire to that at one point in my fantasy career. Hopefully not in a too distant future, but I'm still amazed people can do that. 5, 10, 15 plus is very impressive.
Yeah, shout out to them too for providing names on the boards as well. Mm-hmm. I know with all of the mains that coming off, they're de-identified, and just so that you can see the different picks and the builds, and so that everybody has access to the same information. But a lot of these guys are going to have big drafts next week, and so it does take some courage. I don't know if courage is the right way name, but to put your picks out there like this, especially in such a high stakes league where you're not messing around, you're not choosing your second favorite targets on these.
Yeah, and props to all the content providers, who put out their information all year, sometimes at the expense of their own success as a player. I know it's a tough balance, Vlad. this year, doing a more regular pod, I like it. Like, I'm okay trying to, I'm not trying to be super obvious, and there's a little, a little play on there as far as, are you always saying, I'm trying to always say things that I think are true, but sometimes the things I'm saying are true might be true in my advantage or to my disadvantage. So I like that little game within the game of content and trying to be, real to people who are listening and be respectful of their time, but also try to keep it a little mysterious if you can, just to, make sure that, your playing is also on par. So I respect all content providers. It's a very tough balancing act, I think.
Yeah, it's fun to just to interact with people, and this is such a crazy time of year, and all the stuff. Like, this is like, everybody has got keeper decisions. The people that aren't playing NFBC, they have decisions to make, and it's tough, man. It's tough, but this is fantastic. This is great. We're clean up here. By the way, I think Scott Fleming has Neto, if I'm not mistaken, and did he get Neto?
No, that was Einhorn.
Einhorn, but then Fleming took his guy, the guy that's coming in for him, if he does hit the IL, as will Peraza, or at least.
Ooh, I wonder, does this mean Christian Moore gets a second lease on life? They just sent him down today. Yeah. Peraza was going to maybe start, although maybe it's just Adam Frazier, Mike and I in the 500 DC. We have Glaber and then Christian Moore. So we are looking in at second base. So, and then we were debating Adam Frazier. I'm like, I just can't draft Adam Frazier. Not in 2026. I can't do it. And now I kind of wish I had.
I've been having a tough. I can't even click him in 50-round drafts. So, but he pops back into our life almost every year, huh?
All right. So Masado's last pick was is that Melton?
Yeah. That is. Yep.
Yeah, these glasses are working. Yeah, I'm a recent glass wearer.
Helping
me. All right, Mager, come on, man, steal one more time. Just come on, just do it. I was 4 rounds late on Chapman. I could be 3 rounds late or 2 rounds late on Steele. I would do it. He's still sitting there. If not, he's going to be a very expensive fab pickup in this league if he does not go here.
All right. Mike's going to make his.
Did he do it?
We got to scroll down, right?
Oh, I thought maybe I froze. Maybe it's the live stream. It's just us two talking right now. God, the suspense.
Yeah, makes for great content.
Yeah, that's another fun part of podcasting is filling in, trying to not leave so much dead air. Now they have AI though, Toby, that just takes out all the ums and the dead spots and it just goes boom, boom, boom. It's interesting.
Yeah, we should do. Somebody needs to tell us in the comments whether Mike Mager went with who he went with, so we can see whether we're there or not.
Yeah, we did lose Vlad. Yeah, he
just texted me. Vlad just texted me. He said he lost the internet, and we may have to wrap it up. So it feels like a good point in time. Leave everybody on a cliffhanger. What were those last 4 draft picks?
Wow, we made it almost to the end. Well, Toby, this was fun. Thanks for sharing the mic with me a little bit, and look forward to seeing you in a few days here. Oh, there's Vlad. He's trying to make a comeback here.
Vlad is
there he is.
You guys are wrapping up.
Yeah, I was just thanking.
We were just wrapping it up.
Thank you. See you in Vegas move. Did Mager take them? We're dying to know those last 4 picks.
Yes. Let me get that board back up. I believe this is it. Troy Johnston.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting. Well, there goes Steele.
Yeah.
Semcel did it. Nice job, Semcel. At least At least someone took them, and that'll save a lot of fab for somebody. So nice job there, Simcel, getting Steele, second to last pick.
Gentlemen, this has been amazing. Great draft. Is there any parting thoughts or anything y'all want to promote? People follow you, or any wisdom to impart on fantasy baseball watchers here at the end?
Just to thank you, Vlad, for hosting, to FTN, for everybody. This was a lot of fun. Huge shout out to Mike Masato for putting on this event and so many others, and for inviting us to do this. It's always fun to watch a high stakes draft like this, to see how it develops and have the opportunity to analyze. Apologies to anybody who I may have offended in my commentary about their teams. But maybe you should draft better next time. No, I'm just kidding. And Mark, thanks for joining us. You were a fantastic addition. It was wonderful to have you here. Thanks for all the guests, and happy birthday, Vlad. Thanks for sharing
Thank
it
you.
with us here today.
Thank you, guys. So
I would just say watch this on repeat if you are having some big drafts, because just put yourself in the mind of these amazing high stakes drafters and try to think through what you would do in their spots. Maybe look at the someone from early, middle, late. Just as good. This is really good prep. You could see how people put their teams together. Don't focus on like the actual players. Look more at the roster construction and how they put their teams together. And it's a really good exercise to put you in that mindset. And I think that'll help you when you're on the clock. So that's the last thing I would say. And then, yes, thank you both, Toby and Vlad. Really enjoyed this. Really, really good time.
Yep. Shout out to Mike the Mouth Masato, Greg Ambrosius, and the team over at NFBC for all the guests that came on. And of course, on behalf of Mark and Toby, I'm Vlad. Thank you so much for joining us, and good luck the rest of the draft season. And we'll talk to you soon.